Welcome to Soulspeak, everybody. This is the revamp, but same message, same purpose here. A quick rundown first of what Soulspeak is. We tackle important issues, world affairs, philosophy, religion, and politics, anything in that general realm. Sometimes we'll delve into stuff like gaming and media and whatnot, but tonight there is a very serious topic at hand. We're going to be addressing things like the death of George Floyd, how he was killed. We're going to be addressing BLM, ALM, ACAB, police brutality, the role of police in society, and systemic racism. And we are not going to do the introductions, but okay, you'll hear from them themselves. We're going to start with my right, and then we're going to go from there. So, Larry, you are on my right, actually. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Larry Sharpe, New York City guy, live in the belly of the beast right now. Ran for governor in 2018, proud libertarian, also a consultant for business. Former Marine, as you can see by the picture. And I also run my own show, The Sharpe Way, which is the coolest show in the world.
I'll vouch for it. I'll vouch for it here and now. Thank you very much for that, Larry. Oh, by the by, I should also mention, we will be going over QICC and FAQS, and those are actually Larry's plans to address all of this stuff. I'm very excited about that. So let's get there. Slev, you are next on my screen. Please get.
I am. Hi, everybody. Some of you guys know me. My name's SlevinKalevera, James Seville. I'm a local business owner here in West Michigan. I've been streaming on Twitch for about 2 years. I am one of the main admins on Twitch Streamers and Networking, TSAN. I've been in that role for about 1.5 years, and recently found my voice as far as protests and basically everything we're going to talk about today. Grew up kind of confused as a kid, so we're going to discuss a lot of that. I'm half Latino, half Puerto Rican. And I was raised very, very white, so I did not ever know my Puerto Rican side until I was about 30-ish. Really, honestly, I didn't get into the culture until about then, a few years ago. So I'm really excited to get into this, and yeah, pass it off.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Slev. Sierra, you are next.
Hi, I'm Sierra Grove. Most of you guys probably know me by now. I stream on Twitch. I advocate a ton for mental health and raise money for charity as often as I can. I also have my own talk show called Grovelore that takes place on Fridays that you can find on Twitch or on Spotify or wherever. I have recently also been finding my voice with protests and things of that nature. And also, like Slev, I am half Puerto Rican.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's just too much. I had a thing that I was going to say, and I completely lost it, so it was clearly not that important, so I will just pass it back to Slurp.
That's fair enough. Thank you very much, Sierra. I guess without further ado, we will get to the topics. The first topic we're going to cover is actually systemic racism. And I guess we will break that down. I want to address what happened with George Floyd. I would like to start this conversation because of the context and the protests going on, everything surrounding it. I think it's important to note that while we all accept that systemic racism is a thing, I believe on this panel, can we all agree on that for starters, that systemic racism does exist to a notable capacity? Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering how racially motivated this specific instance was, not disqualifying the potential for racism from it, but Derek Chauvin in particular. Because I think that the way society is and how we've gotten to this point, which we will cover in a bit, like, this would have never happened if not for the racial undertones and overtones in our society. There would be no way that an officer, a white officer at that, could get away with kneeling on a black man's neck for nearly 9 minutes in the middle of the street with onlookers. So while I do feel that the racism which lent itself to this tragedy occurring is definitely there, I don't know if Derek Chauvin himself was racially motivated in his actions overtly.
That's a tough.
I think it actually doesn't matter.
Okay.
To be forward, you're going to have people who are racist in the world, period. That's not going to go away. And racism isn't a black and white issue. I know that's a pun intended, right? People have biases towards people all the time, right? If you can ask, they've done the studies on this, right? You can ask, small black children and small white children to look at pictures of who is better and who is worse and to judge them. And very often black children will often pick white children as being better in some way, shape, or form. It does happen. Doesn't mean those kids are racist. It means that there are racial biases that we all have. So racism isn't black and white. It's gradations. So, and it's always going to happen. Someone's always going to think, oh, because this person's Asian, they're this. And some won't necessarily be negative on the surface, but some might. For example, the idea of someone thinking that some Asian kid is smart because that's a racial bias they have, on the surface isn't bad. Except when you happen to be the Asian kid who isn't that great with math, and now you feel less than because everyone assumes you're the smartest math kid in the class, and you're not. So even that can hurt, even though in theory that's a positive, right, racial undertone, right? But even that could be a negative thing. The point I'm saying is if you don't have a society or a system that encourages racism or racists to be strong or to be effective, it kind of goes away. And the point I'll bring is, why in the world would you have to have segregationist laws in the South? Why? Because if you didn't have them, we would have integrated. Because people integrate, right? People aren't, and this is going to sound crazy, but people aren't naturally racist. People are tribal, right? Humans are tribal, like there's no tomorrow. That is very human. But we create tribes on many different levels. Race is something that's constructed to create tribalism. But we create tribalism on religion, on ethnic background, on where we're born, on what baseball team we like. I mean, we create tribes on all kinds of things. Race is something that's created. So if we don't create laws that separate races, then as a general rule, we aren't as racist as people would think. So you have to create an environment that allows those who are racist to be horrible, those who aren't racist or who are on the cusp to be apathetic or to leave, and those who are going to do it racist to not even join that organization. So it is the culture and the society that create this. Without that, it doesn't matter if he's racist or not. He either wouldn't have joined that organization in the first place, or he wouldn't have been allowed to do that because others would have said, don't do that. So it's just the system is far more important than the individual.
So is that not more or less what I've said since day one?
Yeah, and I think that's a common sentiment shared by most. And I really like that Larry said that he wouldn't have joined that organization to begin with. That's going to be a huge part of this, as it is innately. Now, Slev, you looked. I mean, you were kind of like, ooh.
I was absorbing it all.
Fair enough.
He thinks I'm full of crap. He's just trying to be polite. Tell me.
No. That was directed at what I was saying.
That resting, I guess the resting bitch face look on my face from trying to listen to somebody, and I'm still trying to work on that. I don't disagree with anything you said, 100%.
To clarify, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I noticed that face when I was talking. That's why I pointed it out.
I get that face anytime you're brought up.
That's fair.
But there's an important piece here. I think I don't mean to take so much of the screen time here, but we don't want to fight racists. I know it sounds terrible, but I don't. These people who are more racist, they are still our brothers and sisters. They are still our countrymen. They are still our family members. They're still people we need. These aren't foreign aggressors that we're trying to fight and kill. These are people who live with us. I want to turn them. I want them to see how life should be. I want them to come back to us. That's what I want, right? I remember after Charlottesville, the governor of Virginia, McAuliffe, said something that was so insanely stupid I couldn't believe what he said. He said, our answer to you white supremacists in Charlottesville is go home. Where? To next door? They're your neighbors. They're not going back to Russia or going to Germany. They're going back home. Their kids are going to be in school with your kids. They're going to be in the business with you. They're going to be in the store buying the same pizza as you. Don't go home. Stay here and talk. Let's have a conversation. Let me show you that we are all one people. Let me show you that your tribalism doesn't have to be used in this way. Let me show you that you can find your own strength not in putting others down. You can find your own happiness without having to punish others. It's possible. It may take some time, but I'll take the time to do it. I will. One of my heroes is Daryl Davis. You may or may not know that guy. He's a musician who literally went to KKK members, and he's a black man, one of my brothers, and he went there and he tried to turn them. And he's turned like over a dozen of them, and he keeps their hoods as almost a trophy. How does he do it? By talking to them. Imagine if we had 100,000 Daryl Davises in this country. We would have a better country, a different country, an amazing country in 10 years. I want more of us to be like that.
I agree. I totally agree. I spend a lot of time talking to people and asking them, why they are the way that they are. And a lot of the times it can turn into just this brick wall of an argument. But I think recently one of the things that I've seen, there was this image of a neo-Nazi that was showing up to a BLM protest. And he took his shirt off, and he was instantly turned into a meme because he had man boobs or whatever. But he also had that swastika on his chest. And he ended up completely reversing everything and saying, I stand with you guys. You've opened my mind, and I support everything you do. And I think that should be the goal of everybody who has an issue or has an issue with racists. You should be, your goal should be to turn them. I completely 100% agree with you.
Yes, if you look at how we deal with it at the government level, right? How do you deal with people who we capture who are actual, Muslim fundamentalist terrorists, right? How do we act? How do we do terrible things that we shouldn't do, and it's embarrassing. However, there's one thing we do that's good. See, there is some good to this. The one good thing we do is when we try to convert them and get them into not doing what they're doing out of violence, we don't try to convert them out of their religion. Right. What we actually do is the reverse. We bring in people who are imams or who are Muslim clerics who believe in a peaceful version and how we can still, where jihad for them is not then violence, it is an internal fight to be a better person. And they then bring that idea of jihad to them. And when that person turns, and it doesn't always work, but when you turn that person, to your point, when you turn that person, they are the best advocate for this ever. Yeah. They are super, there's no saying, the most zealous are the converted.
Yes.
And 100%. They are zealots. They are out there trying to change everybody over. That's what we need.
And that's, I can speak on that myself personally, because just this time last year, one of our fellow streamer friends, Jabroni, actually tagged me in a comment that I had made about, there was this, I can't remember exactly what state it was, but this couple had been accused of stealing from a dollar store, I think it was, and they were being harassed. And me being raised, in a cop family, the whole nine, I was there with the math. Oh, it's only 0.0001% of police and all that stuff. And now I'm on the exact opposite side of the coin. I'm the other side of it. Like, I do believe that there are good cops out there, but as we're going to get into ACAB later, like, unless they are standing there and stopping the bad cops from doing the bad things and speaking up, they're still bastards until it's done,
So you've become the opposite zealot too.
Yeah, so I've switched over to I'm not anti-police, but I'm definitely down for defunding and
I don't know,
changing.
your ACAB, that sounds like anti-police.
Well, I don't stand up for the ACAB. I don't stand up for that. That's why until today I've actually completely kept that out of my vocabulary 100%.
We will get to ACAB.
Yeah,
but thank you for
used to work in bail bonds and stuff, so that's one of those things that your views change over time, and I'm glad that my friend tagged me in that, because it reminded me of that, you can change and you can still be a voice for a different platform, 100%.
Absolutely, people can change, and that should be our goal. Influence should be our goal, not punishment. Right? Influence should be our goal. When I teach classes in leadership in business. And when I talk about diversity, I do a lot of diversity training now, especially now because of what recently happened. That's a new big thing for me. And I talk about the idea of I want an environment in my corporation, not zero tolerance. Zero tolerance is the worst you can do because then nobody talks, right? Nobody talks. But if I want an environment to where if someone feels like they are being harassed or they are feeling they're less than or something bad's happening, that they feel comfortable enough stepping up. I want a positive whistleblower environment. Hence, I have a poster of Eric Snowden on my wall. Yes, I want a positive environment of whistleblowers that don't just punish everybody, that open up conversations. Because what I want is, I don't want to focus on punishing the harasser. I don't want people to be harassed.
Right.
right? It's a different environment.
Reform is so much more powerful.
Yes, Sierra, exactly. That's what I want, reform, not punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. Okay. To get a little bit back on track here, though this is all somewhat, it's all relevant to the conversation at hand.
Did I mess you up, Eric? I'm sorry.
You did not, Larry. It's all well within the topic. The thing is, I kind of wanted to go through the history first to kind of shed a light on how we got here. That's basically the question I'm asking. Like, I actually watched a video from Larry, where he was explaining kind of like how slavery and the eradication of culture, the treatment as animals kind of led to where we're at in 2020. I'd also like to throw in the drug war, if anyone, like, build up to that. So if anyone wants to sort of say, like, here's the thing. Systemic racism, at least I think to the average person, it seems kind of ambiguous. Like,
yeah.
There's definitely clear-cut examples of where it comes into play, and, like, instances where you're like, they did that because of this person's race. But by and large, it's not like we have actual laws saying, like, black people have to go to jail for 10 more years than white people. Have to, mind you. Does it happen? We have statistics. But
no, we actually do have laws that say that, but only by default, right? When you say crack is,
yes,
10 years,
yes,
or cocaine is 5. So we actually are saying that without putting the race there. But we do have laws that say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like nuanced ways to get around it. It's all semantics.
Hence the drug war.
Yes.
So I guess, Larry, I'll ask you straight up. I'm really happy to have you here. You're a busy man. Excellent insights. Straight up, would you like to recap a bit on...
I'm happy to... I'll zip through it relatively quickly just so you see where it's going. Originally in America in the 1600s, blacks and whites came to America to work. Most of them came in some form of slavery, like indentured servitude, or something like that. They weren't necessarily officially slaves, but very close to it. Irish came that way. Lots of people came that way in a form. But remember, prior to American black slavery, slavery was always because of one of two things. One, it was an agreement. Literally, I said, you can have my labor for 10 years, whatever the case may be, and I'll basically be your slave or an indentured servant. You will train me in these things so that after 10 years, I can go off and do something. Or I owed a debt, right? That was the other thing, debt, right? I owed something, so I will give you 7 years of my life to repay my debt. Or literally, I would sell my children, because then children were property. I will sell my children to slavery for 10 or 20 years to relieve my debt, or whatever the case may be. Or my people did something. I lost the war, I insulted the king, we lost the battle, and my people are now enslaved. You were always enslaved because of either voluntary or something you did, not because of who you were. That was never a thing before, right? Mm-hmm. So when people would come to America, they came because either voluntarily or something they did that made them either indentured servants and or slaves. From the Roman times, Egyptian times, right? And when a person was enslaved, whether voluntarily or because of war or fighting or insulting the king of the day or whatever that thing was, they still kept their culture. When Sumerian slaves were enslaved by the Romans, they were still Sumerians. They weren't all of a sudden Romans. They were Sumerians. Not just that. When you had a child, the Sumerian that had a child, the child wasn't a slave. Why? The child did nothing wrong. Therefore, the child was not a slave. So literally, the child could be a very powerful Sumerian. If the slave was very smart or savvy, the slave would marry somebody, because they could marry outside of slavery. They'd marry somebody wealthy, right? In these cases, they might have multiple wives, multiple husbands, whatever the case may be. Then their child could become wealthy and buy their freedom. Mm-hmm. Happened often throughout the Roman world, Egyptian world, even up to America that would happen, right? But here's the big thing that happened. Bacon's Rebellion. Bacon's Rebellion happens. What is that? That is poor blacks and poor whites together rebelling against the elites. At this point, whites and blacks were mixing, because they always did, right?
Yes.
People mixed. It was a tribal issue, not a racial issue. People themselves more like, I'm German, or I'm French, or I'm British, far more than I'm black or I'm white in those days, right? That wasn't an issue. So now to change it. So what did they do? Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer was made to make sure that I can make sure that these people are fighting each other, so they aren't fighting me. So the leadership in America said, and this is again colonial America, see, the black people are the slaves, the white people are indentured servants, and white people got more benefits. And that's the first time after Bacon's Rebellion the phrase white was ever used in American documentation. And it was used to say you are white people and you are black people. The problem is they had no other way of divvying things up. So they created what's called the one drop rule, which means if you are not white, you are black, which by default made people not want to mingle. Because now if my children had any part black in them, they were now black. That kept the white people and black people apart. That was law. That's what I say. Law makes us racist. Does that make sense? Right? That's different. Now it's different. Now this isn't the first time it was done. This was done in Africa. The Belgians came in, and you remember the Hutu and Tutsi wars? Remember those wars from the 90s? Horrible civil war where they hacked each other to pieces? This was a fabricated tribe the Belgians put in. This is made up. The Belgians decide, you guys are Hutus, and they literally would measure their heads, lighter skin. Oh, you're Hutus, and you're Tutsis. They made this up. And then, because they wanted to create a ruling class of African, so they wouldn't together fight the Belgians. That civil war, which over 1 million people hacked each other to pieces with machetes, didn't have guns, with machetes, was because of the Belgians creating that mix. Still not done. The British did in South Africa. The British didn't know how to deal with the mix. So what do? If you're partial black or partial white, you are colored. That's official. Like that's on your driver's license. White, black, colored. That's how they divvied everybody up there. It's all divide and conquer. Now, what happened in America was the worst of all of them. I mean, it's horrible in that Civil War, horrible in South Africa, apartheid, terrible. But in America, what now happens? Now you have to decide, people who were my neighbors are now all of a sudden worse than me. How do I deal with that? Well, now it became the next thing. When the black person was now finally a slave because they were black, not because they did something wrong, which means by default, the baby, which is black, is now enslaved. That was the first time ever. That didn't happen before. Now, when a child is born, they're born to slavery, which makes them animals. They are now chattel, right? Because if I have 2 dogs and they have puppies, I own those puppies. So now you just became animals. That's the origin of chattel slavery in America, was that right there. From then on, it keeps going. At that point, you've got to now validate why I'm treating you like animals. Well, laws come up to make sure we can keep doing that. So now law makes a society. So now the people are animals. And so you might say, well, okay, wait a minute, Larry. So after slavery, though, I mean, it was done, right? In theory. But here's what actually happened. The 40 acres and a mule idea was a good idea. That idea came, some of you may not know, from the idea of, you know what? All these slave owners who had massive tracts of land, we'll punish them. Not the poor white who didn't have slaves. Makes sense. Let's take these slave owners, right, who had all this money. Let's chop up their land and give it to slaves. Makes sense. And once the war was over, the army had literally, hundreds of thousands of mules they weren't using anymore. Give the mules over. They don't need them anymore. Why feed them? Give them to the slaves, the former slaves. 40 acres and a mule. That's where that comes from. So they went to do that. Well, the blacks of the South particularly heard this, and so they're moving towards that land. Most of these slave owners had left. They had fled to Texas because the Union Army was coming in. So the blacks started to actually own the land. They weren't trying to get any handouts. They were running the land. Well, Lincoln shot. Andrew Johnson comes in, the first impeached president. He goes, oh, yeah, we just kidding. That's actually white people land. Black people get off. Literally threw them off or re-enslaved them via sharecropping. So blacks were trying to do their own thing. The government came in, threw them off the land that they had been working for generations, took their mules that the government gave them, and either threw them off the land with violence or re-enslaved them via sharecropping. That's government doing it to make sure. Now, of course, you have a problem. You have all these black people in the South, lots of them. Well, we'll start integrating again, won't we? We have a broken economy. So what will white people do? Sell to black people. Hire black people. We can't do that. Integrate. We have to segregate. So they create laws of segregation for the economic reasons of letting poor whites still work after the war, rebuilding the economy. So they do that. Well, even with that segregation, black people start creating their own worlds. They start creating, because they're segregated, they create their own economy. Not asking for a handout, their own economy, building things up. An example of that you'll find was specifically the one in Tulsa. Remember that? Black Wall Street?
Yeah, which
happened
I
9
just
years
recently
ago?
learned about a couple years ago.
Correct, yes. That was one. And what would happen? As soon as that began to happen and poor whites saw that this was a problem, well, that was making black people and white people equal. That's a problem. And black people very often would get very angry about their rights after every war. So you have the height of racism in America post-Civil War is after World War I. Why? Because black soldiers went overseas to fight in World War I. When they came back, the veterans thought, I fought for my country. Don't I get my rights? And the white people said, no. And then the government came in. Now, did the average white person feel that? I don't think so. How do I know this? Even in Black Wall Street, literally the government gave the local people weaponry to go in and shoot blacks. They brought the National Guard in to put blacks in concentration camps so they couldn't defend their own land because they were veterans. They had guns. So they took that and then they burned Black Wall Street to the ground. So now as black people were building up their own, they were now lynched, destroyed, burned. Lynching was used on purpose to put fear into the worlds of the black world. They would literally, if you ever watch someone get hanged, executed, the knot is on the side, and then the bottom falls out, the person falls, neck snapped. Relatively humane way of killing somebody. Lynching is done that way. Lynching knots in the back, and they are physically pulled so they can choke. It chokes them. Yep. So everyone can watch the person choke, so the people can know who choked them. And it's almost always a powerful black man to destroy the family. That's the goal, right? To do that. And it works like magic. It totally works. And it makes everyone feel like we are powerless, we have no power, and it keeps black people in line. That's what happened for years. So after World War I, lots of violence, veterans come back, same thing. After World War II, veterans come back. By the way, the military was segregated in World War I and World War II. Only blacks were segregated. That's it. You were Asian, you were Hispanic. If you ever watched the movie Fury, which is a World War II movie, one of the guys in the tank is Mexican because that was okay in World War II. You just can't be black. You can't be black. Right? You can't be black. You can be Mexican, you can be anything. Now in World War II, there was separate Japanese units because we were with Japan. But if you were Chinese, you went in with anybody else. Didn't matter. No difference. Only blacks are segregated. That's it. Only blacks. So after World War II, we come back, and what do we have? A bunch of ways of helping veterans, right? We had 2 million, 3 million people in the military at that time. You have special loans for housing, all those things. The government literally set in regulations and rules for how black people cannot be in these places. They would lower the property value. They would actually not give them loans, and there were percentages built to allow for Jews, Italians, and Irish to be in. So you could do 30% Jews or 30% Italians, 30% Irish, 0 blacks. 1 black destroys the entire neighborhood. So they couldn't get loans, they couldn't get mortgages, and they couldn't get housing. And all I hear is black people just want a handout. They just wanted to get the same thing everybody else was getting.
Yep.
Yeah.
The whole time, and every time they build it up, it gets trashed. Well, now it's getting built up again. Now we're building up again, and of course, now we can't get homes, we can't get anything, we can't get loans. So we can't make the next step. So what do most black people do? Fine. We'll go through government then. And now the move for the Civil Rights Act comes in. And people go, oh, well, you know, you black people wanted the civil rights. Yeah, we tried it our way for 100 years, and you were literally killing us and burning our stuff to the ground. Yep. So now we'll play your game. So now the civil rights comes in. And civil rights, actually, the laws actually work. And MLK said it. He said, a law is not going to stop you from being racist, but it might stop you from killing me. And that's all we wanted. Please don't burn our buildings to the ground. Please don't murder us in the streets. Just don't do that, and we'll be good. And then what happened? The Black Panthers came out. The Black Panthers were all about gun ownership, self-reliance, Malcolm X, self-reliance, blacks not using government. What did the government do? The FBI literally, do your homework if you want, murdered and assassinated all of the leadership of the Black Panther Party.
Yep.
Yes.
Murdered them all. Went into their homes and shot them dead in their beds, and then enacted gun control because we can't have blacks have guns because it can't be self-sufficient. We've been trying to be self-sufficient for 150 years, trying our best, and you keep smashing us, and then you go, well, why do you guys want a handout? What else you want from us? So finally, in the 70s, we start to grow, and Nixon says, I can't have that. Nope, war on drugs. Nixon openly, and you can do your own homework on this, said he wanted to get rid of leftists, blacks, and for some reason, sorry, no offense, guys, this is Nixon, didn't like Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
Nixon did not like Puerto Ricans. I don't know why. Puerto Ricans. You know that, right? It's true. I don't know why. The guy did not like Puerto Ricans.
Nixon was psychotic, though, so let's...
Yes.
He was so good.
He wasn't a crook, though.
And he literally, his words are literal. He says it will allow us to destroy their family, jail their leaders, and break up their communities. And he was right. That's what it did. And I want you to imagine what would have happened if we didn't have a war on drugs. Right in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, what do we have? The Jeffersons, Good Times, Cosby Show. Sorry, Cosby. Family Matters, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. All these iconic things start popping out to make black people look normal. Yeah, we would have made it on our own. Yeah, and the war on drugs completely destroys the family. How do we know this? Because in the 80s and 90s, when drugs were destroying the family, what did we get? We got Just Say No. We got mandatory minimums. We got, 3 strikes, you're out. Democrats, Republicans hammered the black family. But the problem is twofold. All these horrible laws eventually come home to roost. So now they affect the white community. Now the white community worried about gun control, and the white community worried about drug addicts. So now what do we have? Now we have, it's an addiction. We need to help it. Let's end the war on drugs. Because now white families being affected also, just as bad.
Yep.
Now, but what happened to us 30 years ago? Then it was Just Say No. Drugs are bad. Here's your brain on drugs. That's mandatory minimum. 3 strikes, you're out. That's what it was. That's what we got.
Yep.
So so now the worst problem with the war on drugs is the war on drugs is expensive. Now Bill Clinton, a Democrat, did something that was horrible. He made it tons worse. He put 150,000 cops on the streets to get those drug people. But when he did that, he only funded it for 2 years. So what happens after the federal government funding stops? Local governments have to pay for it.
Yep.
They can't afford it. Civil asset forfeiture. Let's start hunting in black communities to pay for this. Now, why do you hunt in black communities? Well, you can't hunt white communities because the wealthy communities you can't hunt in because 1, they don't carry cash, so you can't seize anything. 2, they vote. 3, they have lawyers that know the law. 4, they may know the mayor. You can't hunt there. You've got to hunt in black, brown, immigrant communities. Why? They're afraid of the law. They don't trust banks. They carry cash, right? And many of them are already arrested, so they're afraid of police. They'll just do whatever you say. A lot easier hunting there. So now you have the average cop. The average cop is no more or less racist than the average truck driver or the average teacher. They're just human beings, all they are. But imagine if you're a cop and you come in, I'm going to do the right thing. I care about this, support my community. And they say, okay, I need you to go into these brown and black communities to hunt, to get money. And they go, okay, you do it. Now for the next 10 years, all the bad people you see are brown and black. What do you start thinking? Brown and black people are bad. Of course you do. Yeah. Whether you were racist when you started or not doesn't matter. If you were racist, jackpot.
Right.
I
was right the whole time, guys.
Absolutely. If you're racist already, jackpot. Oh my God, you tell me your racist friends. Come on, we get to beat up black and brown people for free. Get in there, pay you for it, right? You're encouraged to break if you are that person. If you're not that person, one of 2 things happens. You become apathetic or you leave. Why? Because the entire group, the whole section it's us versus them. It is the war on drugs. It is the war on poverty. It's not supporting. So now it's us versus them. And if you turn your brother in, oh, you're a traitor. Look at you. You're a traitor. And you get turned and you get to believe that turning your brother or sister in is worse than killing somebody who's not us. I'll never forget, a friend of mine said this. He went out when I was in the Marine Corps. He went out into the civilian war, became a state trooper, and then came back in the Marine Corps. And I said, why'd you come back? He said, well, 1, it's safer. That's what he said. And he said, 2, he said, you know what I learned when I was a state trooper? I said, what? He said, justice. Just us. That's what he told me. I never forgot that. That's what he said. I learned justice. Just us. That's what he learned. I had my father was in law enforcement. He was a cop first, and then he was a corrections officer at Rikers Island. I had a friend, a family friend, who was with him. He was undercover. Both black, right? So the undercover cop was doing undercover stuff for many years, and he was so jaded. I still remember this. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I was a kid. I'm walking in the streets of the city. I was raised in the Bronx. So, this guy is pointing at people. It's a cop pointing at people, telling me their crimes. He doesn't know who they are. He's already prejudged their crimes. Jesus. Oh yeah, him, that guy. He's gonna be robbing people next week. That guy's a dealer. Oh, her. Oh, she'll be tricking next week. I mean, he'd be telling our crimes, and he doesn't know who these people are. He wasn't from the Bronx. He was visiting us.
Oh,
He was
God.
from Queens. So he came to visit us in the Bronx and was walking with me in the street, telling me all the crimes people are doing, not knowing who they are, prejudging all the crimes, because he has spent so much time undercover seeing bad people.
Jesus.
So I hope I didn't go too long, but this is where it
No.
comes.
I'm really
This
glad
is how you get systematic racism. It's how you get it. It isn't the people. It's the system. If you break the system, just imagine if you would, of all things that happen, if the civil rights movement doesn't even happen, there's no war on poverty, nothing. We just all of a sudden stop being racist, and there's just no war on drugs. No war on drugs. Then out comes the Jeffersons, Good Times, The Cosby Show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters. All these shows start coming out. We'd have a different country.
Yeah.
Different country.
I agree with it. You shared a lot of awesome information. That's like the first thing I asked when I started this was about the Derek Chauvin thing. And you, I think, nailed home the point with this last sharing of information that it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what was on Derek Chauvin's conscience. George Floyd is one of many victims of a society and system gone awry with heavy racist implications and racism prevalent throughout. So that's the important thing here. I think, well, everything you shared is super important. I just feel like through what I've seen on like social media and friends talking, like no one really wants to consider all of the buildup that we've had to this as a country, as even a planet in some cases. But it's something we need to look at, and Larry did, I think, an amazing job really highlighting the step-by-step process of how we became so screwed. So thank you for that.
Sounds like he's done that a couple of times.
Yes, yes. I'm telling you guys, check this man out on the Sharpe Way. We got his links in the panel, with the panel command. If you ever want the links, ! Panel. It'll pop up in the chat. You click it, you sub, you follow him on his websites, you do it. Slev, do you have anything to add, or Sierra?
I'm full of more knowledge now because
I don't feel like I can add.
I had chimed in earlier. Like I'd only just recently learned about Black Wall Street, probably in the last couple of years.
Yes.
Everything that he just talked about in the past, 15 minutes? None of it was taught to us in school. None of it.
Yeah.
And I've gone to predominantly white schools my entire life.
Right.
Even growing up right across the river from Philly, my town was mostly white. And also being a cop's kid, or a cop's grandkid, you don't integrate that well with anybody who that would apply to, essentially. So learning that history was just not ever taught to me in the mid to late 90s or the early 2000s at all. And then, we had 9/11 and the whole racist thing kind of shift for a little while. And now we're back here, and it's just, that's a lot of information to process. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree.
it is.
Like I didn't learn any of that stuff in school either. It's like, do your own research, and that's pretty much all you have. Christian said, Sierra, what's on your mind? You look like you have a million thoughts and then some. I don't. I'm just feeling smug and validated because I got in arguments about, is it the system or is it the people? And I said, it's the system, it's the system, it's the system. And I got laughed at for that. And I was like,
it's why I'm not ACAB. It's why I'm not. That's the reason.
Yes.
It's why I'm not.
And we're gonna get to that. I appreciate you saying as much, because that's a huge thing. Not that you're pro or anti, just the whole ACAB sentiment as a whole. That's why I'm gonna tell Sierra, don't get too smug yet, because we are gonna talk solutions soon. And I think we might have.
That alone was just a thing where I was like, validation.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Guys, it's a really positive thing about this year. As bad as this year has been in so many ways, with COVID and racial issues and politics and all these things, the advantage is this is also a year of enlightenment for us. We're going to look back and see this as a year of change, right? People who about their own health. COVID made people rethink their own health, right? Yep. What should I be doing? How do I handle this? Rethink, how much power should government have to put us in our homes or not? At what level can government say you can go out, can't go out? How much control does government have? Racial issues, right? What is this with Black Wall Street, right? People didn't know what Juneteenth was until this year, right? And also,
I didn't.
Yes, and police. What is good policing? What should it be? There's a lot of enlightenment here that I think is happening for a lot of Americans on all different levels. And as bad as it is, there is a silver lining.
I fully agree with that. 2020 has been such a shit show in general, but I think the education that's happening right now it's invaluable. It's going to shape the next generation after it. It's just incredible to see everything that's been happening. I mean, I've been to a couple of protests here in my town in the past. Last month I shot one, and it was just, I went to just purely document, and then I got involved, and now we're planning another one for this weekend, and it's incredible. It just, meeting new people and learning stories and the history is just awesome.
Thank you for that, Seth. There is one more topic here that I would like to touch on, and it's maybe a little bit of a tangent, but we talked about the state, or at least Larry brought up some very good points about the state interfering with the natural progression of things in terms of becoming, well, what could at least potentially be a less racist society. I want to talk about the private sector a bit, and in terms of that, freedom to discriminate and freedom of association. I think Larry is right in saying that when the government gets out of our way, we wind up doing the right thing. We wind up not being racist. It's our natural tendencies to come together to try to be productive at the very least. But there is something to consider in that realm. There will still be racists out there, and should we try to change mindsets? Yes. But there's a lot of contention over ideas like turning people away or refusing to associate or sell your products to someone due to immutable characteristics. And I'm wondering where you guys feel the law should stand on that.
I got nothing for it right now.
Where the law should stand on like whether or not it's okay for people to turn people away?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like similarly to like the cake issue from with the gay marriage thing.
Yes. Similar to
I mean, I think it's shitty to turn people away based on that stuff, but I also think like if company A turns me away because I'm Puerto Rican, then like you suck. I'm going to company B instead, and I'm telling all my friends.
Yep.
And like so company A might lose a significant amount of business, and then they will either have the pressure from the community to change their policy, or they will have to suffer whatever consequences come with that. Like I don't know if I feel like the law needs to step in at that point. I feel like, you know, if this place won't bake me a cake because they don't like Puerto Ricans, then like I got 5 other places that will, and I've now told everyone I know that, hey, this place is kind of racist.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the law has no place in saying what you can and can't do. Actions justify who's going to shop with you and who isn't. But the other thing is, they might also get more business because they turned you away. Because there's
another piece there, right? In the perfect world, I think you're right. I think in the perfect world, this isn't what this world is, though, particularly in America, right? The idea right now, if you were to go, I'm not, you know, selling stuff to gay people or whatever for the bake the cake issue, there's a chance a lot of people would rush to that place on purpose to support them.
Yep.
They might get more business, right? I mean, Chick-fil-A said a lot of bad things. Hobby Lobby, they're not going under, right? They'll still, well, they might now because of COVID, but
yeah, I think they are actually.
Yeah, say Hobby Lobby, I think actually has been in some trouble for a while. Chick-fil-A,
yeah, they have been.
Hobby Lobby, they have been.
Yes, but they're also a retail store in this environment, so who knows? But my point being, I think we can find a temporary solution that can make 2 people happy, both sides happy. And my view on this is you simply make a definition, a distinction between retail and non-retail. You make a line and you put X on retail side and Y on the other side. And the problem is once you just say that you can discriminate because of our history, what will happen? People will say, okay, no black people can buy my house. It's what they'll do because of our history, right? Our culture and history comes in here. Not just that. If you're a gay couple or a black couple and you go into a store and they don't serve you, that destroys your psyche also, right? It destroys your psyche also, right? So there's 2 issues to that, right? Both of those issues. So if you make it what's retail, If you as a business owner agree to put something into a retail market, meaning anyone can purchase it, you're agreeing, I'm putting it on my shelf or in my queue available on my website, then anybody can buy it, regardless whether they're gay or straight or a Nazi or white or black, doesn't matter. But if it has to be adjusted, changed, shifted, or your labor must now be used to it afterwards, you can say no. And the example is you have a Jewish baker, a Nazi comes in and says, hey, Jewish guy, bake me a cake. No Nazi, get out of my store. Hey, Jewish baker, I would like that cake that's already on the shelf. Jewish baker says, you have money? Take the cake, get out. The Nazi guy says, I want you to put on that cake. Happy birthday, Nazis. No, get out of my store. That's where I think you make the line that if anyone can buy it, if it's retail, then you must give the product to that person. Mm-hmm. If there must be any service done to that whatsoever, you have the option of saying no. I feel like that is a compromise that most people would be okay with.
I feel like we still, as a business owner, I feel like we still have that. That's 100% how it works, because somebody can walk into my store, grab a phone, grab a computer, and leave. No problem. We don't have to have a conversation. We don't have to talk about anything. Right. If somebody comes in I know that is a racist, I'm still going to serve them, because as a business owner, you want to make money. And that's the big, and that's that's a weird line that, especially here in this town, you can be 100% pro-Trump and loud about all that fun stuff, and people are going to flock to you and support you. Meanwhile, I'm out here saying BLM, and you have people going, hey, you should probably keep that down a little bit if you want to keep business. Whereas a third of my business are black people. Like, no, I'm going to be loud on one side or not, but I still want everybody's money. That's the bottom line, because I like making money.
Right.
But I'm still going to be loud as hell about those issues that bother me. So if somebody comes in and just buys a computer, I'll take their money. If they come in and ranting and raving while they're waiting for their phone to get fixed, and they're saying that, all Jews need to die or something along those lines, then we're going to have an issue, and I'm going to remove you from my store. So we have that already. We have what you were talking about. You can refuse service to anybody for any reason. It's just the backlash that you're going to get from it from the community. If I say I hate all black people, get out of my store, I lose a third of my business, because that's going to spread like wildfire. That's gone. Right. But the rest of the other white area of my town might go, you know what? Let's go hang out over that guy and let's spend more money. It's a catch-22, and I think keeping the law out of it is fine, because our own actions are going to pave our way. That's all there is to it.
Right.
That's all.
For better or for worse.
Yep. And both situations can have positive and negative outcomes for my bottom line, for my dollar. They'll both have good and bad ends. Sorry, I just lost words.
Fair enough. You made some good points.
It will affect it.
Yes. Thank you all for sharing those insights. Off the bat, I would agree with Sierra, but I have my own dilemmas with that. I mean, on the one hand, like, yes, go to another store and get a cake. On the other hand, you have a doctor, a firefighter, who refuses to do their job based on something like that. Like,
that's when it gets dangerous.
I like to say I'm a good libertarian, but like, I have a really hard time being like, yeah, it's okay if you don't like that person for some stupid reason that I will slap you in the face for. Don't help them out when they're in dire need.
A government employee and one isn't, right? If you're a government employee, right? If you're a police officer, a fireman, you have to. Otherwise, don't be a government employee. You have to service all Americans, right? Otherwise, don't be a government employee. Go into the private market. I don't mind that. If you're a doctor, look, to be forward, if some doctor doesn't like black people, I'm really okay if he doesn't operate on me. Get another one. I'm really okay with that. That's a private doctor. I'm okay. Find another one. It's fine.
Yeah.
But a police officer or fireman, I mean, they're government employees. They should service everybody. And if you don't like that, you should not be a government employee.
I agree. Flip, I mean, we've also got religious hospitals. Mercy this, St. John's that. So if you come in and you're trans or you're gay, and they find out they can refuse you, which I want religion out of schools and medicine 100%, but that's a problem. And they're not a government employee, they're still a private employee because they're a religious-based healthcare provider.
But if I'm trans, do I want this is an open question. I don't know. I don't know enough about trans community to have an opinion on this. It's an open question. If I'm trans, do I actually want someone who thinks I'm less than human or bad or evil or whatever is their logic, right, to be supporting me? Wouldn't I want them to go? Wouldn't I want to go someplace else where someone thinks I'm as good as anyone else?
That was
if you're
kind
in a
of
car
my
crash,
thought.
you don't have a say in it though. If you're if you're unconscious and being taken to the local hospital that happens to be Mercy, which is how my town works, you don't have a say in it at all.
Okay.
In most cases, you might be unconscious. You might be on the table dying while they're debating working on you. And I've been watching Grey's Anatomy a lot lately, so
maybe
I've
I
these
recall,
scenarios
I
in my
think-
head.
Yeah.
So maybe you have the same thing as you have a line between retail and non-retail. You have a line between emergency and non-emergency, right? So emergency, everybody must. Non-emergency, once you're stabilized, maybe you transfer hospitals.
That's fair.
Maybe you have a line there too.
And then there's got to be policy to make sure that that's done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be about state by state saying, hey, if you're going to be licensed in our state, again, you're licensed by the government in this case, right? If you're licensed by the government, in this case, all doctors are licensed by the state, right? So you're licensed by the government. If you're licensed by the government, you must agree that in emergency situations, you will help anybody, no matter what. No matter what you're religious. If you don't want to do that, don't be licensed by the state.
I definitely like that take. We are paying government employees with our tax dollars. I don't know about y'all, but I would like equal treatment for everyone, especially if we're going to be taxed so damn much. So it's a more nuanced issue than I approached it as. So I appreciate Larry, Slev, all of you really sharing your insights on that. Because off the bat, I was pretty staunchly like, yeah, you should be able to refuse. But there's a lot at play here. There's a lot more than I...
I've changed my mind already.
I would... things are brewing.
Like a little, yeah.
Well, if you notice what I'm always trying to do, right? I take a different tack as a libertarian, being either an activist or a politician. I consider myself more of a politician than an activist, right? Activist's job as a general rule is to get people to care about issues. That's your job as an activist. You should care about this thing. This thing matters. Let's make change, blah, blah, blah. And they're critical and important, and we need them desperately. And we also need politicians. And what politicians do is they look at the population I want to service, I want to support, I want to represent, and I come up with libertarian answers to problems that my population will accept, right? And that's you see me do constantly. I'm trying to create libertarian answers that my population will accept. Understanding my culture, understanding Americans, understanding the current environment. How can I move towards a more libertarian world in reality? That's why I'm saying maybe we draw a line here. Maybe we draw a line here. We got to draw lines. How about we do this? Let's be as realistic as we can and move this country towards a libertarian world. Right now, it's going towards oligarchy as fast as possible. It is rushing towards oligarchy. Turn it around and go this way. And I'm pretty happy.
I feel that. And I agree 100%. I think you're doing a great job, Larry. Okay, last thing for this topic. Classism. How, not just like classism, but in contrast and comparison to systemic racism. I would not say for 1 second that we were in a post-racial society. I think with everything we just covered in the past hour or so, we can see that. But I do feel that class, like Larry actually was talking about, now it affects white people. Now we're seeing it. So now we're being affected by it. And more solutions are being made. That's a clear highlight of the racism that goes on. I'm wondering how you guys feel. Like, do you think there's a sort of counterbalance going? Are we maybe near a tipping point of classism becoming a more pressing issue? Or is it all, like, very intertwined? How does class play into this?
I don't know why I thought he just was gonna go classism. Like, okay, go classism. Talk.
Realistically, I kind of did because I don't have the answers. Like, I feel like classism is a pretty pressing issue. I feel like because of our history, we have more minorities, racial minorities in particular, that are impoverished, as was just covered in the past hour. And I think classism exacerbates that already existing racism as new forms of racism continue to pop up. So it's like a double
like they
whammy.
feed into each other. Because I feel like, you know, if it started as a race issue and then it's kind of seeped into being a class issue, as Larry said, where it's like starting to affect white people. And then I think that then like you see a lot of those communities that are being attacked where there are white people who are on the back end of it. There's also a lot of black people in that community. And then they're like, oh, well, look, do you see? And then that's where like, I think the two things just feed into each other forever, like racism, classism.
Well, the lower class has always been predominantly people of color anyway. You know, up until like Larry said with the drug war and everything, when crack and cocaine started coming out into the white population, then those people started to, you know, come back down into the lower class. It's just, historically, it's mostly been people of color that are in the lower class. So classism and racism kind of go hand in hand, I would think.
Classism is lower classes are almost whoever's newer. Right, it's the immigration population that tends to be lower classes, right? So again, black is the exception because of the idea of being a chattel slave, right? That's the exception. But if you get away from that, you look at it, right? If some of you may not know this, but there was a chance that our official language in America might have been German, because there were that many German immigrants from the Germanic states. There was no Germany at that point, but there were so many Germanic principalities and states that had come to our country. The Pennsylvania Dutch are not Dutch; they're German. It's Pennsylvania Deutsch, which is how German people call themselves. But English didn't know that, so they thought it was Dutch. But they're not Dutch; they're German.
Oh my God!
The entire area, yes, it's Pennsylvania Deutsch, which is how German people call themselves. They are Deutsche. Deutschland is Germany. That's what they call themselves. So they're not Dutch, they're Germans. Germans, by the way, are the largest of all our population in America. They're about, give or take, 19% are people come from Germanic stock in some way, shape, or form. Largest. But since World War I and World War II, you know, people change their names, aren't so proud of that anymore, you know, systematically murder millions of people. People start to not want to talk about you. But anyway, so that's what we don't realize. So who were the second class citizens then? They were Southern Europeans who were Catholics. They were Irish. They were Hispanics, came from Mexico. They were Italians. They were Asians, Chinese who came. The newer people tend to be the lower classes as general rule. The immigrant population tends to be that. But then the immigrant population eventually becomes the major part of the population, and then the lower classes change. In America, lower class now is almost always based upon dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Almost always based upon dollars. Like you can look at, you know, the barrio, the ghetto, or the trailer park, and they're all going to be considered the same in many ways. There was a Saturday Night Live skit in 2016 called Black Jeopardy. They did many Black Jeopardy skits, but one of them in 2016 was two black women and a white guy who's got a MAGA hat on, right?
Okay.
And they actually answered questions where they all agreed because the class was the same. If you're you ever watched the South Park?
Yeah.
South Park did an episode where all black rich people start moving into the neighborhood.
Yes,
that was
like
I stopped watching.
Yes, and the whole joke was no one liked them because they were rich. It had nothing to do with the point that they were black. So like Will Smith moves in, Oprah moves in, right? And they're all mad because all these rich people move in, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's not because they're black, right? So I do racism and ethnic hatred and will always exist. Bigotry will always exist. But in America, I think we're very lucky in that very often money changes things more than in other countries, more in America. You know, Kim Kardashian is wealthy, and look what her background was. And now she goes to the White House.
Right.
That. All right, I'm not gonna use the platform to badmouth Kim Kardashian, guys. I'm not gonna do it.
If you want to, but look at it. Look at.
No, nobody's gonna play
Will Smith. Look where Will Smith came from. Will Smith came from a poor part of Philly.
Yep.
He came from a poor part of Philly. Now he's like American. His family's like American aristocracy now.
Oh yeah,
I'm
for sure.
I'm going to say what I was going to say just because I feel bad. I was talking about what was going on in my own head at the moment, not what you just said. I just wanted to say I wish accruing a lot of money meant that you did something really awesome to get it.
No.
But that's not the case today.
That's not how it works here, bud.
In today's world, there's one thing that matters over everything else: popularity.
Yep.
That matters
Especially
more
now.
than anything. Today, exactly right. Yes, you're totally right, James. Now more than ever, popularity matters more than not. If you're smart, that's great. If you're smart and popular, you are set. There are many reasons why Trump is president. But the number one thing of all the reasons why he's president is because he had a TV show for 11 years.
Yeah.
That's the number one reason. There are many reasons, right? That's not the only reason. But if you remove any other one reason, he's probably still president.
Yeah.
You remove that one, he's not.
True.
I love that idea. I'm going to agree with it. I like it.
I would definitely agree with it, because if he had not had that exposure, we would be like, who is this crazy rich dude with dementia screaming at the podium? Like, what are we doing? Like,
Well, to be fair, I mean, the dementia thing's kind of been more recent. I mean, when he first started running in 2016, he wasn't as dumb sounding, even though he's
I mean, that's fair, but it was still
yeah,
ridiculous.
but
And I think we would have seen
progressively
that a
worse.
lot more.
And I will never deny this. He has the toughest job in America, hands down. Anybody who sits in that chair has the hardest job, probably in the world. He's not the best equipped for it.
Yeah, like, you can't put someone like that in a position that's going to deteriorate them so quickly.
He was also in Home Alone.
And this is why we need Paris Hilton in 2028. I'm just throwing it out there.
There we go. Paris Hilton,
hot.
2028.
Oh, that's her campaign slogan. Nailed
That's the
it.
campaign slogan right there.
Nailed it.
James, you are the manager. Give her a call. Tell her you are in. Or
I've actually got a number in my phone. I'm going to call her after this is
There
over.
we go.
And,
maybe
we'll get that
you're her
started.
comm chief. I love it. I
Oh
love
my
it.
goodness.
I'll be
All right.
VP. It's fine.
I like that ticket. Okay. Oops, that was my bad. All right. So, guys, thank you for that section. Very educational. I loved it. We are going to take a sort of chat/break now. If any of you feel you need to get up on the panel to stretch or whatever, do so. I will be taking questions from chat at this time. If anybody would like to address an individual panelist with a question, or just generally just specify in your comment, and we can take it from there. No Lady Gaga for president. Mate, I don't know. At this point,
I like
I don't
Lady
know.
Gaga.
She's a cool person, but like,
I like
I
her.
don't. I don't know what our criteria is anymore
I kind
as
of just
a
don't
nation.
want any more TV and music celebrities to be like, I'm all done with, like, I want them to be president because I like them. Like, I mean,
Unless
like, we
it's
just
The Rock.
addressed
See-
the popularity thing.
Unless
Like,
it's The Rock.
I don't want any. Yeah, okay, fine.
I will-
don't
I
want
will-
Johnson for president.
I will disagree for one reason. This year, I was really hoping Larry Sharpe was gonna run for president, and I got a glimmer
He's a
that
politician.
But here's the thing: he's also a content creator now. He could become a celebrity. He is the
I
host of the
understand,
Sharpe Way.
but, like,
We're
you
going
want
viral.
him to be president because you agree with his politics, not because you like his music or his
That-
like, dumb TV show.
He
You know,
has
like,
pretty great
it's
music,
different.
from what I heard. That's fair. Um,
Look, the reality of it is, to run for president as a third party, it is a full-time job. It is and you have to run for about a year and a half. I ran for governor of New York. I did not work. I went a year and a half without a salary.
Oof.
I literally, and I live in New York City. I have a wife and 2 kids. My wife doesn't work. You can imagine what my finances were like when I was done. But I made impact. I got 103 libertarians like the next year. I got ballot access. I raised $500,000. There was impact. If I run for president, I got to start running a year and a half before, and I have to be financially stable enough to go a year and a half without a salary and not see my family for a year and a half.
Right.
I mean, I would leave New York City and not come back for 6 days. That's how you have to campaign to win a state like New York, to make the impact that I made. If I run for president, I got to cross the entire country. I'll leave my house and won't come back for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've got to make sure that my family's prepared for that, that I'm financially set for that. It is it's not like, remember, the other people who ran against me, they were all getting paid by the state. They were all state employees. They were being paid by taxpayers to run. I was the only one running out of the private sector. So I was the only one struggling. As a libertarian, I had the same issue of a president. I'm not going to have a job. Everyone else will. They'll all be senators or congressmen, and they'll all be getting paid to run. I have to pay my own bills while I run.
Oof.
Yeah. And it's a year and a half of not being home. I lose my family. I lose my friends. That's why I didn't run this year. I wasn't prepared to do it. Right? A lot of people run as libertarians because it's a vanity piece. I'll run so I can be more popular. I already have my own TV show. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need to be more popular. It's not a vanity run for me. I don't care about that. So I want to be able to make impact. Because when I run, I bug people for time, for money, for energy. I ask a lot of you. And if I'm going to ask a lot of you, I have to deliver a lot for you. Otherwise, I get I get donor burnout. I get volunteer burnout. I get activist burnout. Not on my watch. All those other people running, they cause that, not me. You run, if you support my campaign, if you give me time, money, energy, you get results. And if I can't produce it, then I'm not going to do it. And I couldn't have produced it this year. I could not have produced it this year. I knew it. I was not in a financial, emotional, family place to do it, so I wouldn't do it. 2024, maybe. If I'm there, I would do it because I want you to be like, I'm happy I gave that guy $100. He actually did something with it. He went out there and he busted his ass. Okay. I'm happy I gave money. I'm happy I did wave signs and shared stuff on Facebook because he busted his ass for me. I'm in.
That's a fair point. Hard. Well, yeah. I was gonna say, like, I'm hard pressed to find other people who are as like active year round as it seems you are. Especially, you've been a busy man. I've noticed since COVID started, your videos have the quantity of them has picked up a lot. Always quality stuff, of course.
Because my consulting gigs got rid of me at time.
Oof.
It's true. So I had to shift my entire business model into a coaching model because that can be done like this.
Very true.
Consulting is tough. I can't go to the businesses. I can't be that leader I need. I can't go off and make the change I need to make in organizations. I can coach the leaders to do it better. So that's what I do instead.
Smart. Super smart.
Guys, he does this professionally, and now he's coaching the nation for free. Give him some credit, all right? I'm just saying. All right, it seems like we are good on chat. We can move on to the next subject, and that's actually going to be, if it'll actually... So it'll be solutions and sentiments. So, pertaining to the subject at hand. That, I want to start, actually, with Larry's plan to address this entire mess, QICC and FAQS. Would you like to break it down, Larry?
Sure. I pulled something out of the air because I had to come up with the policy fast enough. So I did. And the policy, the first one is called QICC, QICC. First, and this is to fix it on a large level, like a national level. And FAQS is a local level. So it's national and local. National level, 4 things. QICC. Number 1, Q is N, qualified immunity. Qualified immunity means that cops basically have to prove that they were doing the most evilest thing with full intention to get punished in any way, shape, or form. That has to go away. My goal was to go through the Supreme Court because I thought if the Supreme Court actually did it, they would have to end it because it's completely unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court did what I thought they would do, which is ignore it this year yet again. So Justin Amos jumped on board too. So he actually put a bill. He's like, look, we're going to go through Congress. And he had tripartisan support. Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians. And they won't vote on it. Nancy Pelosi will not vote on it. So also got shot down. So that was my answer. Shot down in the courts, shot down in Congress. The only way we're going to fix this is if an executive fixes it. That's the only way. We have to hope locally some governors actually step up and do it.
Did they have reasons for that?
Airspace.
Yes, because they worship their law enforcement officers. That's why.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, that's the reason. Yes.
It's pathetic.
Yes, and true. It is both of those things.
Yes.
You are totally correct, Sierra. It is both pathetic and true. Yes. Now the I is every law enforcement officer should carry their own individual liability insurance. Yes. Right now, all professionals do this. Doctors do it. Lawyers do it. Blah blah. The glory of this piece, if you actually have this, the first thing people say is, no, the unions will stop you. No, let the unions be brokers. The unions are now insurance brokers. They make money on good cops now who pay their dues and pay their insurance premiums, which means now the unions will spend their time supporting good cops and ignoring bad cops because they make their money on the good cops. Incentivizes changing the system, incentivizing the unions to support good cops and not spend time on bad cops. Not just that. Right now you have a system to where cops will not turn on each other. No worries. If you have liability insurance, as a bad cop does bad things, the insurance company will have to pay the bill. The insurance company will now raise premiums to where a cop simply can't get hired because they can't maintain liability insurance. Now, what if a cop just made an error and they're not a bad cop? They'll take a short-term hit in their liability insurance and they'll be fine. You're now
just like
supporting.
A bad driver.
Correct. Now you're supporting good cops who make an error and getting rid of bad cops. But there's something else happens with bad cops right now. If you're a bad cop because of that blue wall, they don't fire you. They let you resign. So what do? You haven't been fired. So you resign. Go across the border to another place, get a job as a cop again. So now
Sometimes
that cop...
just the next county over.
Bingo! So now you got two incidents with bad cops. The world sees it as there's bad cops everywhere. No, it's the same cop who's doing bad stuff in 4 different places. So it makes all the good cops look even worse. Another reason why I'm not ACAB, because it isn't that many cops. It's the same few cops doing crap in 4 different counties.
That's common is that?
Why. Yes, it happens all the time. That's a problem. But if you have to carry your own insurance, your insurance follows you. You can't get a job someplace else, regardless of whether you're fired or not. They get rid of that. I'm still not done. On top of that, right now, since the people pay for it, right? The state pays for it. It's in the state's job to squash any problem a cop has. It's in the state's best interest to lie about what the cop did. But if the state's not paying for it anymore, and now the insurance company is, it's in the state's best interest to find the truth. Yet again, not hammering and firing good cops for nothing, only hammering bad cops. Win, win, win. This changes the system to where good cops are set up and can rock and roll, and to where bad cops get removed, and the good cops, because of their culture, don't have to turn on bad cops. That's not going to happen right away. Even if we change the rules, the culture is you don't turn your own in. That's going to take a decade at least to change.
You got to get those new good cops in.
Bingo, exactly right. At least a decade to change.
Yep,
we'll change
absolutely.
The culture.
I think that's how anything really works. I mean, like we were just talking about generational gaps earlier. You have to educate the new generation so that they can further educate and make the next generations better. And it 100%. Works just like with cops. Yeah, it works the same way.
So that's the insurance piece. That's the I, and then the 2 C's. Third C, get cannabis off of Schedule 1. It should not be a Schedule 1 drug at all. Get rid of it. Once you get cannabis off Schedule 1, the cheap bust no longer has value. So they'll stop doing it. I changed the incentive for cops to now pick on the guy or gal who just happens to be driving and think, oh, you got some weed? Right? That goes away. So I'm stopping cops from doing that. But you add on top of that, the fourth piece, the second C, which is end civil asset forfeiture. Once you end civil asset forfeiture, that's the second C, now cops aren't able to take money. How you do it is very simple. You simply cap the amount any group can get from civil asset forfeiture. You can only get $100, $1,000, $10,000. Once you cap it, no more money goes to the police force anymore. So why do it?
Right.
So you, by default, end the incentive for these unnecessary stop and frisks, these unnecessary attacks and no-knock warrants. You end the incentive, and you, by default, defund the war on drugs without having to end it because they can't afford it anymore.
Yep.
That's quick. You do those 4, you change the entire system across the country.
It's brilliant. It's absolute genius.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably one of the most clear-cut, awesome plans I think I've ever heard. And granted, we've only been talking about defunding the police for, what, a month now, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the most logical argument I think I've heard, or presentation I've ever heard. I think I saw your plan come through my Facebook feed at one point, just through a random share, just like not even linked to a government page or anything like that.
It might have been the graphic.
It might have been, yes, it was probably from Eric.
Yeah, so it could have been from that or a meme page, because I've been seeing them in some other groups and I'm in and all that other stuff, and that plan just makes perfect sense. You hold the cops liable, give them insurance, just like we carry for our cars, or I carry for my business, and we're good to go. That alone will just the insurance alone, and then getting rid of qualified immunity is just huge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a nationwide change. At a local level, instead of defunding the police, which turns so many people off.
Yeah, this one I want to hear.
It is terrible marketing. It is a terrible marketing. Defund the police. You got to remember something. Whenever you do a government, remember, government's a monopoly. Mm-hmm. That's what it is by default. It's a monopoly, right? So whenever you remove government, what's left? Nothing. Nothing's left. You can't just do that. People freak out and they get scared. When people are afraid, they make bad decisions. That is constant. Well, the first, after Bacon's Rebellion, bad decision, afraid rich people. Patriot Act, bad decision, afraid Americans. Keep going, right? Mm-hmm. War on drugs, bad decision, afraid racists, right? It keeps going. People who are afraid make bad decisions. Yes. I don't want you to be afraid. So instead of defund, what I say is reset. Reset them. Reset the police. We're going to keep them. We're going to reset them. I'm going to reset in 4 groups. FAQS, FAQS. F, family law. I want a separate group of people who deal with family issues. Domestic issues, children, going to family homes, things like that. I don't want a guy or a gal who just was at a murder scene and then was in a drug bust, now going to someone's, two people who are chatting and screaming at each other because they're mad about the bills they just got today. I don't 100%. Want that. That is a bad idea. Family law is a separate issue, to be a separate force group of people that can be directly linked to local nonprofits, local churches. Chaplains are amazing. This is exactly when I want them. Get a chaplain in right now. That chaplain gets in. That's what chaplains do. They deal with, hubby and wife getting mad at each other. That's what they deal with. That's their world. They're good at that. And they want to do it, or you don't become a chaplain, right? Cops don't want to be deciding whether the guy or gal is right or whose head I got to crack. They don't be dealing with that. But chaplains do. That's why you become a chaplain. So why don't you get them they're good at it. They want to do it. Bring them in. You can bring local churches in. You can bring in even local shelters in, local social work, whatever's appropriate. You have a community component. And that group is not measured upon arrests. That group is measured upon 2 things. The charities and nonprofits that work with them grade them, and the individuals who go through it also grade them. That's how they're measured, by literally using a Yelp system. If you're happy, you're doing a good job. That's family law. Second piece, active policing. That's the cops that we know. Those are the guys and gals who are getting thieves, murderers, rapists. That's active policing. These are people out there making sure that your house doesn't get robbed, that kind of stuff, right? Finding the bad guys. Those guys will have 2 separate sections. The escalation and de-escalation, following the Boston police model, where you got one guy or gal who was in the full gear and the other one who was literally in khakis and a polo. Mm-hmm. I need to put some guy on the ground because he's a bad guy. That cop is there. Put him on the ground. I got it. This is a conversation. You de-escalate. That's the khakis guy. He deals with that issue. Either way, you deal with it and fix it and take care of stuff. Detectives are in there, all that stuff. And they, by the way, are also graded by the community. The community says, do I feel safe? Not amount of arrests, not amount of money you make, not number of busts. Literally a Yelp system. Are the people happy? Do they feel safe? They feel safe? Life is good. They don't feel safe? You better get better. Period. That's how you're graded.
Protect and serve.
Bingo. Q, quality of life. These are things like dog animal control, writing tickets, stuff like that. Right? That's what that is.
Yeah.
Different cop. I don't need a cop, again, who just left the crime scene to now have to pull me over, write me a ticket.
Or literally just shot somebody within the past week.
Or just shot somebody, yes. But what this also does, it also allows cops to transfer within areas. I don't have to fire cops, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe you spend, like the military, right? I was a Marine. You spend 3 years in the fleet. Now you spend 2 years on recruiter duty or 1 year on embassy duty to get your head out of bombs and terrorists that you've been seeing for 3 years. So guess what? Cops too. Cops spend 3 years in active policing. Maybe they should spend a year writing some tickets.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe a year hanging out with, pulling kids out of people's homes. Maybe you should do that for a bit, right? Maybe you should make some changes. You can do that. You give the options. I don't have to fire cops, right? I can move them around, shift them around, right? I can do that. And that also, of course, quality of life, that can also be connected with a civilian population. Of course it can, right? And then last is S, social work. That's drug addiction, homelessness, things of that sort, right? Issues where there's mental health, that's social work, right? Those issues. That's a different kind of cop also. You break it up into 4, each with a social component, a civilian component, community component for each one of them. You can mix and match. And now you simply shift your dollars between each one based upon how the local community wants to be policed. And that's how you judge an effective police force. Are the local people happy? But Larry, we're running short on cash. Great. Do the local people think we don't have enough active policing? Maybe you have an MS-13 gang problem. You want to start, going and knocking in some doors. Maybe that's the way to get. Okay, great. Pull it off of social work. Pull it off of this. Shift or move or match it. We get a lot of people getting upset in our active policing. Great, move into social work. Shift, mix, and match. Not just that, you have a community piece to every one of them. Lean on the community more. Whenever you remove government, you have to add community. So you lean on community more. Lean on, you know what? I can't afford to put a bunch of people into quality of life right now. Good. Lean on literally the local VFW to be doing quality of life issues. I'm not joking. Literally you can lean on somebody. Lean on the Knights of Columbus to start doing animal control.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Why wouldn't they want to do that?
You don't have to be a cop to do that.
You don't have to be a cop to do that. Lean on community to make that happen. Now, you're always going to have some kind of cops to oversee that in some way, shape, or form to make sure the government's doing the right things by the government, of course. But why can't you lean on that? Of course you could. Mm-hmm. The local churches in this country are being devastated, particularly the black church. So why isn't it doing more when it comes to family law? You don't need a cop to go into a domestic dispute. You could have 1 and 3 people at a local church.
Yeah, for sure.
You do that, and you will adjust policing, and then each local community can adjust it how they want. Will there be errors? Yes, absolutely. Will there be mistakes? 100%. But when one local area makes a mistake, only that local area makes the error. Others now can support and help. But when you do it statewide, the entire state's screwed.
Yep.
Yes. Sierra.
I was just going to say, I really like the FAQS plan, but since I heard about it, I've been really excited to get to talk to you because I wanted to ask you about one specific aspect of that, because it kind of goes back to what we were saying about like with hospitals and stuff. If you start putting the churches very involved in the law enforcement, do you not fear that could potentially cause a problem for people whose ideals maybe go against what the churches believe in? Like, if you're going into family dispute and it's a gay couple, like, what happens?
100%. No, you're right. That could be a problem. It could be. Right now, what happens is a cop walks into a family law area and puts someone in handcuffs. Mm-hmm. That's what happens now. Someone's children have to watch one of their parents do a perp walk and go to jail. Mm-hmm. That's how currently family law works. I'm not measuring my plan against perfection. I'm measuring it against status quo. Yeah. Will there be problems? Yes. Will it be better? Yes.
That's fair.
I look at chaplains now in the military. Chaplains now, and our switch hitters, they support whoever. When you take a round and you're on the ground, they'll give you last rites. It doesn't matter what religion they are. Mm-hmm. You can have a Muslim chaplain who will give a Catholic last rites when they took a round and they're on their way out. Doesn't matter. They'll do whatever it takes, right? And they'll support people. Now, again, you have to play the same rules. In this case, you're being supported by the government. You're going to have to sign an oath or some kind of affidavit saying, to our point, if you're going to work with the police, you must service anybody regardless of your personal views. If you sign that affidavit, then you can't work for the police, can you?
Okay.
Right.
If you go, no, if it's a gay couple, I'm not going to help them. Thank you, not you.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's like 20 other people behind you that want to do it.
There's people behind you who want to do it.
That is the answer I was looking for.
That's it. Remember, if you don't get it, and this is going to sound horrible, but I was in the Marine Corps. I voluntarily signed my rights away. Right? When I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, I did not have freedom of speech. That went away.
You're a tool of the government.
That's correct. I voluntarily accepted that. That's true.
Yeah, you're no longer a citizen. You're a tool. You're a tool.
That's correct. And if I agree to sign up to work with the police force, I give up those rights of freedom of association while I'm working for the government. I give them up. If I don't like that, then don't work for the government. No worries. No one's forcing this. If you want to help people by working for the police force, no worries. You can. But even if you hate gay people, while you're working for the police force, you must support gay people, period. Now, when you're on your own time, you want to ignore gay people, fine. Up to you.
Sure.
All about That's how you contracts. We did get a question in chat that I feel is kind of pressing. Shiny Shoes asks, the problem with Yelp-style reviews is they're disproportionate, that with angry people being more likely to leave a review. How do we solve that?
Yeah, it's a very valid point. You'd have to have some type of system that be similar to voting. Now, voting also is bad, right? Because voting, the people get elected are elected by the people who decide to show up. That's true. So he's right. There would be some problems. My hope is eventually people would say, why am I not leaving a Yelp review? I need to leave a Yelp review. My police force is getting defunded because I'm not doing my civic duty by leaving a Yelp review and saying, don't defund my cops. What's wrong with you? But I'm telling you, he's right. There will be problems like that. You would have to be able to tell people, look, if you don't do your review through, I would hope, a secure way of doing it. I would hope we could find this answer, right? This is 2020. We should be able to do this, right? So that you don't do it, then the cops are going to go in ways that you don't want them to go, right? Yeah. There's going to be a bunch of cops on social work where you want quality of life. Now, if you live in a city, quality of life tends to be very important to you. Mm-hmm. If you don't live in a city, it tends to not be that important because your neighbors are far away, at the big deal. In cities, we live on top of each other. So we care more about quality of life issues. Well, if you care about quality of life and you live in a city and you don't do your Yelp review, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
So do it.
And like that is a good point that like, yeah, you know, like when you go on Yelp, you've got more bad reviews than good ones because people who are upset are more likely to speak up. But realistically, it's like you said, it's voting. This is much more important than, you know, whether or not I like the pasta at the restaurant I went to for dinner last night. This is voting. This is deciding what the future of like my area is. I live here. If I love where I live and I don't want to have to move because I'm miserable because something ridiculous happened, like I need to speak up. It's just like voting.
Yeah, and if you figure out the review issue, you'll have millions of business owners around the world thanking you, because negative review bombs are honestly the worst. But 9 times out of 10, when those negative review bombs happen, and I know exactly what you're talking about, Shiny, it's when something bad happens by a business owner or an employee that is way out there, that is completely off the chart. And then the mob mentality kicks in because that business model is bad. That person that owns that business is bad. So that's where those bombs come in. You can also have the same kind of reverse effect with good review bombs. You can have cops that are really awesome, you know, every time that they finish up an interaction with a human being. Hey, you know, this is kind of part of my job. If you were like really happy with what I did today and how I handled this, please go here. It's on your ticket, or it's on this feedback, or it's on my card. Go do this for me. After every single sale at my store, my employees ask, hey, can you leave us a Google review? Hell, we'll give you $5 off, you know, if you leave it right now, you know. And it encourages more positivity on our wall, which in turn makes us look good. So the negative review bomb is still a worry, but I don't think it's going to be a worry unless those cops are actually doing bad things, which is holding them accountable. If you have a cop out there that's saving lives every day and going above and beyond, I don't think you'd ever have to worry about him getting a negative review. So it's the price you pay with the internet. But
if they did, right, even if a cop cop pulls me over and gives me a ticket that I deserved, but I'm a jerk, so I say he's a big cop or whatever. There's still going to be 75 other good reviews. He'll have one bad review and 75 good ones, right?
Yeah, we have 900 positive reviews on our site, and like 5 to 10 bad ones, and they're all mad customers because we wouldn't bend to their whim. So yes.
In fact, the reality is, if you only had 900 good reviews, I wouldn't trust them.
Exactly.
The 10 good ones, bad ones, makes me believe the 900 good ones.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's why I believe it. Oh, he's got some bad ones. Oh, but 900 good ones. Oh, so now I actually believe them. If you said 900 good ones, I'd be like, who was that? Your friends did your own bombing?
Yeah,
they bombed
exactly. Who are you paying off?
Well,
how big is your advertising budget? Yeah, exactly.
What's the rule? Always look at the 3-star reviews for like the
Yeah.
real information.
I like that.
That's what I heard. At least for Amazon, we could apply it to police too. Why not?
But when I buy stuff on Amazon, like the first place I look, I don't care if there's 700 reviews. I go right to the 1 stars to see what the negative was.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
what I
why
did
didn't
with this
you
capture
like it?
card. That's what I did with this camera. The whole nine. Like you read the negative just to see how accurate the good reviews are.
Yes, I like that too. What I really like about Larry's plans here is it's a real call to community involvement and action.
Yes.
Like, I remember, I think it was Larry too. I think it was one of the episodes of the Sharpe Way. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was talking about how our dependence on big government has sort of made us detached from the issues
Yes.
at hand.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's huge in this, because this isn't going to change if we keep trusting people thousands of miles away who do not have our best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
As he mentioned, this plan is weighed up not against perfection, but against what we're doing now. And what we're doing now is similar to, what do they say? It was a certain experiment they did. Like, someone was on the side of the road, and I think they called it, like, the someone else will help mentality.
Yes.
Someone else will do
Yeah.
it. And this person just got left on the side of the road for, like, hours. And right now, people are getting murdered and impoverished and incarcerated, not just left on the side of the road. So a big thing with libertarianism that I think libertarians tend to get a bad rap because everyone thinks like, oh, you don't want this law, so you don't care about this group of people,
Yeah.
which could not be further from the truth. But we also have to understand that in order to propagate ideas of liberty and of a better society, we have to put some elbow grease into it. We have to be more compassionate. We have to be more active. We have to be our brothers and sisters' keepers. So the quick plan, the facts plan, not only do I feel it resonates on a very practical level, but in principle, it gets everybody moving. And that's huge for me.
It's the most sensible plan I've heard yet.
It's honestly one of the only plans I've heard yet. I mean, there's been like 3 maybe. There's like burn it all down, make it all tighter, and then Larry coming in with something practical. On what I just said, Caffeinated Zombie asks, how can we get this going? How can the general public help make this happen? She asks.
Vote gold.
Be bold.
Vote gold.
Go gold.
Vote gold. If you vote red or blue, nothing will change. They will punish the offenders, which is not a bad thing, but they won't change the system, and there'll be another George Floyd in a couple of months or in a couple of years, whatever. Nothing will change. You vote gold.
Absolutely.
Why? Because libertarians know who I am, and even if they aren't me, if I called them up and say, try my plan, they'll go, okay, Larry Sharpe, we know who you are. Sure, let's give it a shot. That's why.
I love it.
Vote gold. Vote gold.
Personally, I will agree on a more like neutral stance, I guess. I'll just implore everybody to at least look outside of the Republicrat paradigm. Like, just at least get out of there a bit. I'd say look at gold first and foremost, of course, but let's definitely get away from the blue and red thing going on. To each their own, I guess, but we want change. We need change at this point, and I think Larry gave us some pretty good stuff here, some real good stuff. So moving on, still relative to this, let's talk about BLM, ALM, and ACAB. This one's loaded.
Yeah, it's super loaded.
Yes, BLM, I guess we could start with that because that's not just a sentiment and a cause, but it's also an actual organization. And from what I've been told, I haven't done much digging into it, so anyone here, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. While the BLM sentiment, I think most people can easily get behind. Black Lives Matter. Black lives are at risk, so, like, let's pay attention to that and try to make that not a thing anymore.
There's a bunch of people who disagree with that premise.
Yes,
There are.
and we will definitely get to that in a second. I want to add that the BLM as an organization, while they support this, I've also heard some pretty vocal whispers about them trying to instill like highly socialist policies along with those sentiments.
Yeah, I've heard that they're
like
not
sneaking them
doing
in
with
there.
the money what they're supposed to be doing or something, but I also have not really done the research.
Does
Yeah,
anyone
same.
Does anyone have insights as to whether or not there's more of a political or economic agenda there than just a, hey, black people matter?
I think obviously there is, right? I mean, it's you have a situation to where the red part of America, as a general rule, says this is anti-establishment. And remember, the people who are pro-establishment are the people who are in charge right now, right? Right now, Republicans run everything. So they are pro-establishment. Democrats are anti-establishment. That's how that works. When Obama was in charge, Republicans were the rebels, right? And then the Democrats are all about, the establishment matters. So now, by default, BLM is by default anti-establishment and therefore gets behind Democrats for sure. But it's a second issue. Black people vote almost as a monolith in this country. It's a terrible thing. It's nothing but hurt black people. I've told my people we should, and I said this years ago before I was a libertarian. I was like, why don't we all vote Republican one year? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah. If we all vote Republican one year, then Republicans will go, oh, wait a minute. I could get a black vote? I should have some policy to help black people. I didn't know I could get a black vote. Because 95% of black people vote Democrat consistently.
Yeah.
So and the Democrats go, oh, wait a minute. I might lose the black vote. I might actually try to help some black people and just show up, not just show up every 4 years and act like I care. Now, I was kind of joking when I said that back then. It's probably 20 years ago I was saying this. But I was kind of not joking. And now I say the same thing. Vote gold, because it's the only way of Republicans going, wait a minute, there's a chance they won't vote Democrat? Maybe I should care. And then Democrats going, oh, I don't take this vote for granted. They may actually leave me. I should actually care. I should actually do something. So the black vote tends to vote Democrat anyway. If you ask most black people, they're Democrats. Most are. It's just a fact of life. Most are. So by default, BLM is going to be a Democrat style or type movement. Most people don't think there's any option except Democrat or Republican, right? Killer Mike, after his conversation after George Floyd was killed, was saying, now is our time to organize so we can vote. What does he actually mean? What he means is, now we can put more Democrats into power. That's what he actually means. Let's put more Democrats into power. Now, to be forward with you, I get if you don't like Republicans. I don't like them either. But I don't like Democrats either. They're no better, right? Clinton was just as bad to black people as Reagan was, if not worse, right? Didn't Joe Biden write half of these regulations, that these laws that were on the books in the 90s? He was behind most of them, right? And Trump doesn't care. He'll keep putting people in jail. He doesn't care. So they're all bad. But I do think BLM is without question sided towards Democrats. And because they want to fight Democrats, here's how Democrats fight. Democrats fight Democrats by going Bernie, by going DSA, right? Democrat Socialists of America, by going more social, go AOC, right? AOC is the Bernie side now of the Democratic Party. So you'll find many people who are BLM will move towards the socialist, the AOC side, but not because they are actually socialists, believe it or not, because they're rebellious.
Right.
And the current rebellion of the Democratic Party is the socialist movement. Some are actually socialist. Many are just rebelling. And how do I know this? When I ran for governor in 2018, a lot of people came on my side were former Bernie bros who were unhappy with the Democratic Party. They supported Bernie Sanders not because they knew his policies. They didn't know that. They just knew he wasn't the establishment that Hillary Clinton was. And they were anti-establishment Democrats. And the only place for them to go was Bernie. Most of them didn't even know his policies. They had no idea. They knew he was the not Hillary Democrat. So when Hillary won, about a third of the Bernie bros stayed and voted for Hillary, held their nose. About a third didn't show up. And a third went over and voted for Trump. They would say, how would you vote for Trump? Because Trump was the rebellion vote. They were just rebellious. So I think there's a bunch of people in BLM who are just rebellious. They're rebelling.
That's fair.
And what the rebellion is in the left side is socialism. So they go there. Why was Gandhi a socialist? Because it was the British Empire or socialism. Why were Russians communists in 1917? Because it was Tsarist Russia or communism. That's all they had. So they went to communism. You think the average peasant in Russia knew what a communist was? They knew it wasn't the emperor who was stepping on my throat every 5 minutes. God, sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair point.
Yes.
Yeah, that's valid.
And I mean, to compound that issue, making it even worse, I think the terms people throw around today, capitalist, liberty, stuff like that, like when people think libertarianism, they're like, okay, now all the corporations are going to run everything and run roughshod over everyone, so now we need socialism even more, because there's only one other option to revolt now. It can't be more individual liberty, it has to be socialism. It's not good, but that we could go on for like 8 hours about that in itself. I would just encourage everybody, like, if you are kind of like on the fence about your knowledge of what these terms mean, capitalism, libertarianism, even socialism, because that's a very dynamic term too. Look them up. Do a little bit of research before saying like all of this is bad, all of this is good. So I'll just say that for now. We could save that breakdown for maybe another episode. I would like to move on, unless, well, what would you, Sierra and Slevin, do you have anything to add to the BLM in itself, either as a movement or as a sentiment?
No, I mean, I very much agree that it's a lot of rebelling and people that don't really know, kind of, like, I mean, I know I shared this with Eric, that the first protest that I went to, I sat down to have a drink of water, and this dude, like, came and had a seat next to me and was talking to me and was like, oh, my buddy came. I'm shocked that he came with me to this. And I was like, well, why? He said, well, because he's a libertarian. And I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, libertarians don't come to this stuff. And I was like, well, I'm a libertarian and I'm here. So, like, tell me more. And, like, I mean, he kind of was like, and, like, because I don't think that he even knew what he was talking about. I don't think a lot of people know what they're talking about.
It's true. Yes. But that's the perception. Like I was saying before, and this, I think, proves that to a T. Like, people think libertarian, they think not compassionate, don't care, or they're part of the problem at hand. Which, to be honest, not caring at all is part of being part of the problem. So, absolutely. But we can remember, that's a huge thing, especially with social media. Like, everybody, Larry was like a light in the dark. That's not the best metaphor here, but like,
no, I'll take it.
Fair enough. Everybody on social media I saw screaming, sharing horrific videos, and don't get me wrong, spreading awareness about this stuff is huge, because this stuff doesn't get attention half the time, if not more. And if we look back like 10 years ago, it was a blip on the radar if people cared at all. So do it. Yell, scream, spread awareness, do what you need to do. But Larry, then I saw him with QICC and FAQS, and I'm like, oh my god, there's like an actual like end goal in sight that all my brothers and sisters out there protesting and screaming, whether online or off, can actually work towards.
I don't think you've ever texted me so fast.
It happened. I was real excited about it.
Look, this is my point about activists and politicians. We need both, right? Neither is better than the other. It's like a business, right? You need the customer service person and the marketing person and the operations person. They're all valuable. They all matter, and they have different, jobs that connected together make everything work. I'm not an activist. I'm a politician, right? I need activists out there to let people know this matters. Hey, pay attention. This is important. What are you doing? That's critical. And someone's got to go, and here's how we fix it.
Yeah.
Both. They're both valuable.
I agree entirely. Moving on to ALM. All Lives Matter. Is there anything to that can be salvageable? How do you guys feel about it?
All lives do matter. They do. But
no
right
one's
now,
contending that they don't.
Right. That nobody's contending that they don't. Nobody's arguing that. All lives do matter, but they can't be the center of attention until Black Lives Matter. That's the whole point of the the BLM statement.
I
All lives matter is
have-
only brought up when somebody says Black Lives Matter because they want to be they just want to fight you. That's all.
Right,
They
like
wanna
where are
start
the
a
All
fight.
Lives Matter people when, you know, like there was a white woman that was
ICE.
killed by police in Minnesota. I don't know how long ago it was, but like where was the All Lives Matter crew at that point in time? No.
How about when we're droning people in the Middle East?
Yeah, like there's so many
Where are
times
they
where
then?
it's like where are they then?
Where are they
I've-
for the
I've
refugees that are coming
heard-
over?
I liked
That
the
are coming over the Mexican
analogy.
border.
I liked the analogy that was like you break your arm and you go to the doctor and you're like, doctor, my arm's broken, and he says, well, all your bones matter, and it's like, yes,
Exactly.
they do,
All
but this
your
one's broke,
bones.
so can you focus on it for a minute? Can we take care of my broken
Yep.
one? Like, and right
That's-
now, like Black Lives
that
are
and the house
broken
on fire.
arm.
Yeah, that and the
The
house on fire analogy.
too. Yeah, that's a good
Those
one.
are both really, really great ways. And 9 times out of 10, when you bring those up to somebody who says all lives matter, they don't care.
But we also
and-
shouldn't have to dumb it down like that.
You
Either.
shouldn't
Like,
have to. You shouldn't. But that's the state of America. You know?
That-
But you have to understand that when someone says all lives matter, what they're actually saying is this Black Lives Matters thing is not real.
Yeah.
That's what they're actually saying.
mhm.
The Black Lives Matters thing is not, there isn't really a problem. What they're
Yeah,
saying
and-
is there's not a problem. That's what they're actually saying. It's not a problem.
They're
All
ignoring
lives
it.
matter. Yeah. That's like if you went to the doctor and said, my arm's broken, he goes, oh, your bones matter. What he's actually saying is, oh, you don't have broken bone. I don't care about your broken bone.
Yep.
Right.
That's what he's actually saying. So we have to accept that that's what they really mean when they say all lives matter. Now, so what does that mean? We have to show them that there's a problem. If we don't show them that's a problem, then it doesn't matter. They have to understand that there is an actual problem.
What
Right.
do you do when they don't take the evidence?
Generally speaking, I will ask them because they will almost always have an excuse. I'll say something like this, and I've done this many times. I'll say something like, "Oh, so do you think that there isn't a problem with Black people being dealt with negatively in the country today?" I'll say something like that. Something very generic.
Mhm.
And what they won't say no. They'll always do distraction.
Yeah.
Right? They'll go, "Well, you know, when the Irish came, they do
Yeah.
something like that."
Yep.
Right?
No.
Every time.
Every time, you
We
know,
all
you see it
fail.
every time. They do something like that. Well, there were Irish people, whatever. What about the Jews in Germany or whatever? Or they'll go the worst. They'll go, when are you Black people going to get over slavery? They'll do that. Any of those things, right? They'll do any of those. They won't actually deny there's a problem yet. They'll always just go to distraction.
Yep.
When they go to distraction, whatever that is, if you say when you get over, say they say, what about the Irish or whatever? What I'll say is, yeah, I think that's true. The Irish went through a lot. So did the Italians, so did the Jews. They went through a lot. You're right. I'm curious, did any of them have 150 years of state-sponsored violence against them? That's all I do. And they'll say
Nice.
something, and I'll repeat it, because they'll always dodge it. They'll dodge it. Well, we had, civil rights or whatever. And I'll go, yeah. Did any of them have 150 years of state-sponsored violence against them? Which is what we had.
Yeah.
150
Just-
years of state-sponsored violence. That's my argument. My argument is just that. If you can show me where Italian Americans, only people who can come close, without question, are Native Americans.
Yeah. No. 100%.
Native Americans, we're simpatico here. They had 150, if not more, of state-sponsored violence against them too. So
Yeah.
Native Americans, we're simpatico here, right? This one we're good. But unless you're Native American,
Yeah, also,
Yeah.
you'll never see a Native American give you the, like, well, the Irish, well, when are you going to get over... Like, you'll never hear a Native American say something like that.
We're
How
sitting
can
there
you have
screaming with
no
Black Lives Matter as
sympathy
well.
for the Irish?
yes,
Yeah.
because
They're
that's
like,
why.
yeah.
That's why I go to the
Yeah,
system.
answer for it. Like,
I
they're
try
going
to
to be
do that, but the problem is when you say that, what the reason why they don't like it, to be forward, is because then they feel racist. They
Mhm.
support the system. It's their system, and they feel racist. I don't want them to feel racist. I doubt they actually are racist. They're probably just ignorant of what happened. And even if they are racist, I don't care. I want to fix them. I don't want them to feel bad about it. I want them to feel better about it. So I don't want that person to feel like they're a racist. And many of them do. Here's the funny part. I have when I was a little kid, most of my friends were black. When I was older, a teenager, I was raised in high school. I was in a white neighborhood. Most of my friends became white. As I got older, most of my friends are still white. I have black family and black friends, but most of my friends are still white. So when anything racist happens, my white friends always take it worse than I do. Always. They always take it worse. Because when it happens, I think many white people who aren't racist feel like it's an attack on them. They feel like one of their own attacked them. Like, I'm not like that person. Don't do that. Right?
No,
Don't
absolutely,
be that
100%.
way.
I can speak for that all day.
Yes. Yeah, I feel that. I'm like, oh, again? Okay, what's fine. Like, I've been
right.
through that, right?
Yep.
I'm like, okay, like, I'm not okay with it, but it rolls off of me a whole lot easier. Right?
Like, almost numb to it at that point.
When I ran for office, in the first couple of months, there were many racist attacks upon me when I first started running.
Oh boy.
N-words, half-breed attacks, stuff like that, up front.
Yep.
Afterwards, I gotta say, I was very impressed. The last 9 months of the campaign, almost none. It was like race didn't matter at all. I was thoroughly impressed by what New York State was, by seeing almost no race. I mean, very few. 1 in every 3 months of all the social media I was doing. It was so rare. I don't remember any of them in the last 9 months. That's how good it was. In the beginning, there was a bunch. And my campaign team that was white were so angry and aggressive and would light people up on social media like there was no tomorrow. Blam, blam, screaming, yelling, calling me up and apologizing like they did it. I'm like, it's not you. It's really okay. I get it. It's fine. It's fine. But I think that's an issue. When they say that they don't want to, nobody wants to feel like a bigot unless you're actually proud to be a bigot.
Yeah.
Which is why when they defend themselves and say all lives matter, my gut tells me they're actually not a bigot because they don't want to feel like that. If that makes any sense.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
So someone who actually says all lives matter, I actually think they're probably not a racist. They're probably not, although they don't believe they are at least, because they don't like that feeling. Right? Someone who is a racist goes, no, they don't. Right? They don't respond, all lives matter. They respond, no, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're racist.
Right. It's like...
Or they start talking about
stats.
They talk about stats. Oh, you black people do this, do that, do this. The blacks do this, the blacks do that. That person's racist.
The old black on black crime argument.
They do black on black crime, blah, 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 blah.
Oh
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if you just go all lives matter...
I don't ever want to hear that again.
My gut tells me you don't like that feeling and don't want to be racist.
That's fair.
Like they're trying to separate from that.
I think I just blew Eric's mind.
You did.
Yeah, he's
I'm having
over here right now.
Quite a bit of trouble. I mean, it does make sense. I'm just because my initial thought was like, okay, this hundreds of years, many years have creeped into people's minds. On a subconscious level, racism has been instilled within them. So like that makes me feel like they're racist and not super conscious of it. But that was the question I wanted to ask you guys. Do you feel it's more they really genuinely don't see the wrong being done? Or do they have this sort of innate, latent, maybe deeply buried or even light racism within them? And I think Larry might have actually hit the nail on the head in that maybe they just don't want to like automatically be
I think when he said maybe they're not racist, or at least maybe they're not aware of it, I think that's something that really like stood out to me, because it's like, as I said earlier, everyone kind of has like these innate biases,
of course, that
we don't necessarily know about, that have just been, society has instilled things in us, and we have these biases, and we're all trying to unlearn those biases as we learn more things about other people. And there's some people that are kind of stubborn, stuck in their ways, maybe don't understand that they have a bias, and so maybe they are a little racist, but they don't realize it. They don't see it that way. They're not aware of their own biases.
And also, you know, when you believe in a system or a group or something, and someone says something bad about it, you don't like that. It makes you feel you want to defend it, right? So let's say if you were a Catholic, I don't know if anybody's a Catholic, but if someone's a Catholic, and someone attacked the Pope or the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to like that feeling, right? Because you're a Catholic, you identify as a Catholic, you believe, and you think the Pope is a great person, right? You're a practicing Catholic. Of course, if I said the Pope this or the Catholic Church that, you're not going to like that. And you're probably going to try to defend it by going, all religions are bad. Don't just pick on mine, right? You're going to go, Protestants do bad stuff. And it's not because you hate Protestants or hate Muslims. It's because you're defending your own system. It is a natural self-defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Okay. So saying all lives matter is almost like saying I matter in that
Yeah.
vein.
Yeah.
My system isn't bad. I'm not part of a bad system. My system isn't bad. I vote for it. I'm proud of my system. It's what all lives matters is. And for many people, not everybody.
Right. It's self-validation to a point.
So, to be clear, in terms of approach, Larry, would you say that your stance is one of, like, maybe educate them on why Black Lives Matter, but don't presume that they're just, like, racist off the bat?
What I always say is when someone does something that has a negative impact, I don't always know the intent.
Yes.
So I always separate intent from impact. They're different, right? And the example I brought up earlier was the idea of in South Africa, they use the term colored. That's the term they use in South Africa if you're mixed race. So some South African guy comes here and sees me and goes, hey, Larry, you're colored. That's not going to feel good, right?
Right.
And the impact is not a good impact. But the intent wasn't bad. That's a government phrase that he uses in South Africa, right? So he's not trying to hurt me when he says that, but he sure might by doing it. So I have to differentiate the impact. I said because I have a neighbor who's South African, and that actually happened. That's why I say that. That literally happened to me.
Oh, no.
That's why I use that example, right? So that's why I bring that up, right? And so he's not trying to be bad. That's what he believes is the phrase you use, right? To ask that question, right? But so I have to ask and have a conversation to suss out the intent. If the intent is self-preservation, if the intent is to your point, James, self-validation, then I probably shouldn't be as angry because intent matters. It does. It doesn't mean the impact didn't happen. It's why in laws we have difference between murder 1, murder 2, manslaughter, right? These are different crimes. The person's still killed, but the intent changes the damage or the repercussions of what the person did. Same in this. If someone uses a term, all lives matter, I need to suss out intent. Is this murder 1? Is this manslaughter?
Yeah.
What is it? And so that's what I do.
Tonight, Larry.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that gets said a lot of the times is that when people say all lives matter, it's because they're trying to silence the Black Lives Matter people. So do you think that the amount of people who are using all lives matter as a silencing tool is like a negligible amount of people?
No, I think it's a large amount, but they may just be silenced because they're tired of you attacking the Pope.
That's fair.
They're tired of you attacking the Pope. Stop attacking my Pope. Stop. So shut up. All lives matter. Right? Shut up. All lives matter. Stop attacking my Pope. Now, are there going to be people within there who are actual racists, who are actual bad? Sure, of course. But those people are going to be bad people no matter what I do.
Yeah.
But can I salvage some who just don't know? Yeah.
Sure.
And
can I get some?
Goes back to the beginning.
How am I going to get? I'm beating up Catholics. I'm sorry, guys. My family's part of my family's part of the Greek Orthodox Church. So, but anyway, just when it comes to Catholicism, I'm not beating up Catholicism. But how can you change Catholicism? Only from inside. Yeah. Only Catholics can make it better, right? Catholics have to believe that there's a problem with their own church and then fix it, make it better. That's any church, any group, any organization. So the All Lives Matter people, they're Americans. How to make America better? By getting Americans to realize it's a problem and then fixing it. If I just yell at them, I just divvy us up even more.
Yeah.
Right.
We don't need more division. We got lots of that.
Sure.
Don't need any more of that. I'd ask everyone, who is going to unite us? Biden? No. Trump? No.
Hell no.
No. Of course not.
Agreed.
Our division really began during Vietnam. That's when our division really began during Vietnam. That's when it began to where we started to distrust distrust government, to where the Civil Rights Act cut black and white, to where the Southern strategy made Republicans and Democrats completely separate by divvying up the South and North when it comes to conservatives versus that. That's what it began in the 60s, where it began. Goldwater, right? It began during that time. But it's been getting worse the whole way through. It culminated, believe it or not, in the second term of Obama. Every president prior, in the first term of Obama and everyone prior, at least pretended to be a uniter.
Yeah.
Right? Obama said, "There's not two Americas, there's one America." Bush was, "I'm a uniter, not a divider." Right? They all were at least doing lip service to one America. Yes. Second term of Obama, he was like, "Nope, Democrats get to vote out. My people are going to get me in." Trump said, "Oh, you think that's bad? Hold my beer." He said, "Let me show you what division's about." Right? Obama was the one who finally just gave up on it in his second term. And then Trump said, "I'm going to show you how to divide people." And Trump was like, the good people and the bad people. My people are the good people. Everyone else is the bad people. So he doubled down on what Obama did.
You're not
Who's
wrong.
going to bring us together? Libertarians. We are the only group of people who say you can be as conservative as you want to be or as liberal as you want to be. Just don't force your views on others. We're the only ones who say that. We're the only ones who aren't tribes. Right? Democrats, Republicans are tribes. They change depending upon their warlord, right? There's a big difference between a Reagan Republican, a Bush Republican, and a Trump Republican. Why? Warlord changes. Big difference between a Carter Democrat, a Clinton Democrat, and Obama Democrat. Why? The warlord changes.
And they are warlords.
Yes, and the warlord decides what the tribe will decide is correct and incorrect. The warlord decides. But libertarians actually have a principle. I can call myself king of libertarians all day. I'll get laughed off the stage.
But what happened? But let me play the devil's advocate real quick, Larry. I'm going to hit you with the question. I'm sure a lot of people in chat are wondering. Well, the fact there's never been a libertarian president.
Yep.
So you've never had a libertarian warlord. So it could still end up being the same old thing, but now there's 3 different tribes instead of just the 2 that have always been the ruling class.
There's 2 reasons why that's not true.
Okay.
Reason number 1. We don't have enough of a tribe to create a powerful tribe. We simply aren't big enough or long enough to be corrupt enough. Give us 20 years, yes. Right? Let us get in power.
You guys, right.
Yes, I'm not joking. Eric's laughing. I'm being true. Serious, right?
It's true.
To have a libertarian president and have libertarians be in charge for 20 years, we'll be as corrupt as all the rest of them. There'll be a new libertarian party because owls will be corrupt too.
And
right?
that was the point I was trying to make there, yeah.
Eventually, they're right. But not now.
Right.
We don't have enough pull to be corrupt. It's just we don't have the infrastructure to be corrupt. So it's impossible was number 1. But the second piece is there are libertarians running things. Every successful corporation now in America is run by libertarians. All of them. They're all run by people who understand post-industrial leadership, which is leadership to where you make people freer, allow them to be successful. They're all over the place. And are they tribes? Not really. They change and adjust and shift no matter who the warlord is. They're changing inside constantly. So you see it in Google. You see it, right? You see it in all those companies. So there's 2 examples. 1, we physically can't yet. And 2, the examples of libertarian leaders now show us that's not true.
And you brilliantly countered me awesomely. Thank you. That was perfect.
That's good.
It's what I do.
Fair enough.
He is here to counter you, Slev.
Oh, for sure.
You specifically.
Yes, thank you for that, Larry. I will say that a lot of successful corporations in the U.S., to my knowledge, don't have the most savory practices.
Well, let's just say Amazon. I mean, we're on the platform right now. We might as well point them out.
I love Amazon.
That's a great idea.
Let's be clear. What I meant by that was that the warlords don't control what's right and what's wrong. The people underneath do, right? That's what I meant by that. Can the people make bad decisions? Yeah, and they do. Of course. It's just humans. But I'm just saying it's not that you must do what the warlord says and everyone must be in line. That's not how the best companies are run. They just aren't. They're run by here's our overall mission. Leaders go lead.
Right.
Right? So in a libertarian world, we would say here's our goal. States, my governors, go lead. Would some states be bad? Yeah. Would some make mistakes? Of course. But then overall, we would follow, right? The Google example I'll bring up is, I don't know if Google still does it, but there was a while ago where Google was allowing up to 20% of everyone's work to be on anything they wanted.
Yeah, they said it's still in their charter.
There we go. So they still do it, right? And what would happen is the only rule was you had to tell people, I think it was every week or every month, what you worked on. Mm-hmm. So if you worked on garbage, you'd go up and go, yeah, I just kind of played, Sim City for like a day. And your peer group would be like, wow, you're a piece of garbage. Right? And you'd stop because your peer group would be like, wow, you're a piece of garbage. You played Sim City. You suck. Right? And then someone else would say, I'm working on this thing. Oh, me too. And their most successful, most profitable apps all came from this.
That's how that's what Google Project X is.
Correct.
Basically, that 20% gets moved over to that, and then those guys get to head up their own thing to create the things that we use every single day. Because, I mean, I've been an Android user since day one.
There we go.
And I've seen the evolution of Android and how it's surpassed iOS, and that's because of Google. And Google has no problem cutting projects. Yep. They've cut more stuff than I think any other company on the planet has. And there's a whole list of them. You can actually Google it, like things that they've killed or merged into other things, and it's massive. But it's because they encourage that creativity to try to make everything better.
And they become a better, stronger company, right?
Mm-hmm.
They become that. They survive. And so would America. Would there be failures? Yes. Would we have to go and, bail out, I don't know, Iowa once in a while? Maybe.
Stadia. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But we'd have others who would be better, and we'd be able to copy and watch and see. Right? But not just that. New York State is not Maine. Maine is not Florida. Yep. They might need different things.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
So they'll change and they'll shift.
I'm sorry to cut you guys off. I love this conversation, but we do still need to cover some things pertaining to the issue at hand.
I thought it was like a half-hour show. What happened?
Larry, I told you 6 to 9. Don't tell people I didn't say that. A hard cap of 9. If we could get, if we could get through this before then, that's fine. Did you really think that? I feel really bad now. Oh no.
He's pulling your leg, bud.
Okay.
He's pulling your leg, man.
Oh my god. I was about to go cry in my closet in the middle of the show.
I just got real nervous.
Woo! You gotta go back. Let me check my text. Did I actually text that? What did I do?
What did I say to him?
Yeah, half hour on Sunday is fine. We could solve all the world's problems in that time frame. With Larry, it might be possible. I want to cover ACAB because it's a loaded one. Does anyone want? For those of you that don't know, ACAB, ACAB stands for All Cops Are Bad or All Cops Are Bastards, used differently by different people.
I'll start.
Start it up, Sierra. Let us know.
So I've got opinions. I think I'm the only one on the panel who will openly say yes, I have said that before. But it's tricky still though because have I said that? Yes. Do I in essence believe it? Kind of. I don't think that every single individual police officer is a bad person. I am not each guy is bad. When I say all cops are bad, what I'm saying is the system is bad. And it goes back to Larry's analogy of who can fix the broken system of Catholicism? The Catholics can fix Catholicism. Who can fix our system? The people in the system. And if they're not doing that, then I'm angry. I'm unhappy with the people who are in the system that aren't changing it. So when I say ACAB, I don't necessarily mean your Uncle Joe is a bad guy. I mean, the system where the police exist is bad. It is broken. And I am disappointed in anyone who willingly signs on to that and does not work to fix it.
Well, your interpretation is not exactly how it's presented, though, because there are very specific instances where I've seen it. Your Uncle Joe is a bastard because he might be a great cop, but he still stands by with and that's why until tonight I've never actually uttered the words all cops are bastards. My grandfather was a cop for 25 years. I believe he was a great cop the entire time. I don't know. I have many friends here in law enforcement in this town, in this state, that are fantastic human beings. And I know a few of them have been caught in controversy. And I know the mentality of the cop world.
Oh, for sure.
Just like Larry said earlier, just us. That's the thing. you don't turn your back on blue. You do not testify against your own. I read an entire article the other day. It was a fantastic piece it was titled "All Cops Are Bastards. Sincerely a Bastard Cop." Because he was a cop, and he laid through every single thing corrupt that he's been a privy to, how the system works inside. And at that point I was pissed. I was mad that I read that entire thing, because I still love my blue brothers. I love them a lot. I worked in law enforcement, being in bail bonds. It's you form these ties, but you see that brotherhood. You see that the plausible deniability and all that fun stuff. You know, I've learned more about cops in the past year, or in the past 6 months, than I've learned my entire life, and I've been surrounded by cops the entire time.
Yeah.
Are all cops bad? No.
Well, like that's specifically why I refuse to say all cops are bastards. I say all cops are bad because I'm saying that the system is bad. I refuse to say all cops are bastards because I think that does make it more personal, and I don't necessarily think that every single human in law enforcement is a bad human. I just am upset with the system.
I think the point of all cops are bastards is to make it personal, so that you think about it, so that you really put yourself in black people's shoes. That's all there is to it. So you can try to understand what it's like. Because anytime I've ever been pulled over, I have a DUI. I was treated with awesome respect to the whole nine, and I was in a white neighborhood, pulled over by white cops. But if I were black being pulled over in that neighborhood, I mean, we've seen black people get pulled over for DUIs and just be shot because they ran or they resisted. And is it because I was nice and cordial to the cops, even though I was intoxicated? Yes. But is it also because of the color of my skin, because I pass white? Probably.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I've had plenty of cop interactions. I'll be honest, every single one of them has been bad, except for one. When I got in my car accident in 2014, the cop that handled my entire case he was a good dude. He lived down the street, and he was a good dude. I don't think he's a bastard. Like, I do hate the system.
No, I mean, I grew up listening to Rage Against the Machine and System of a Down and all of the greats. I trust me. I hate the system as much as anybody else. But it's, you know, having worked in law enforcement, with law enforcement, and being so vocal for BLM, it's like you're immediately tied to ACAB, and I'm not. And then when I say that, you know, the hardcore BLMs are like, well, you're not BLM, you know, you're not supporting, you're not like, all cops are bastards. And I'm just like, I can't do that. I can't say that.
That's
because
they have to understand though that you need allies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No, I get it. I totally understand where they're coming from when they tell me that I'm not an ally.
Then that's their problem.
No, yeah. He's saying they need people like you as an ally who still understand BLM, but also are not down with ACAB.
BLM's mistake, and I don't know. BLM doesn't talk to me, so I don't know. I don't reach out. I'm not concerned. I mean, I support them. Yay, go! But not my thing. I'm not an activist, so I don't really talk to them, right? So, but any group has to understand that allies are valuable. An ally is someone who agrees with you 80% of the time. You're an ally.
There it is.
That's it.
Tell him the rule, Larry. Tell him the rule.
It's the 80-20 rule. If you agree with me 80% of the time, you are my ally, not my enemy. Period. And there are things we're going to disagree upon. Right? So if you want to hang out with BLM and you agree with everything except for ACAB, you're their ally. And if they go no, that's their problem. There was something that happened. This is a personal thing that really drove me crazy. CNN did during the Democratic primary, did a town hall or something like that was specifically about equality. And it was talking about gay, lesbian, trans, the LGBTQ community, right? And during that time when they're out there, and I forgot, it's one of the Democrats are talking, and the guy who's doing it is Anderson Cooper, who's gay, right? He's the guy who's like running it. And a black trans woman gets up and starts yelling and screaming about black trans lives and blah, 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 blah. And then Anderson Cooper was like, well, what's up on you? Oh, man, no, let her speak. I was angry. I was angry because these are people who are your allies, and you're yelling at them because they won't focus specifically on your issue right now. Mm-hmm. They're your allies. Don't yell at them. Go yell at your enemies who are across the street, who are against you and don't think you're a human being. Go yell at them. But she was yelling at her allies.
Mhm.
If BLM yells at you, you're their ally. What are they doing? It's a terrible move. They shouldn't do it. It's a bad idea. I'm sorry. I can't. The idea that everyone has to agree 100% with everything everyone says is nothing but a way of dividing us even more. When we should be looking at the 80-20 rule. We can be allies. We don't have to be 100% on the same page.
No, I agree. I love the 80-20 rule. I swear to God, I heard somebody else say that before tonight. I love that.
It was me echoing Larry again.
Eric says it to me every time that I get in a fight with anybody. Anytime that I ever get in an argument with anybody, he's like, the 80-20 rule. And I'm like, why don't you shut up for like a minute?
To be fair, Sarah, you can get pretty loud and pretty fiery about stuff. So I like the 80-20, and it's something I've been. It's true. I 100%, yes. But I
get fight.
Yeah, it's I like 80-20 a lot. I like that a ton. It's something I've been trying to incorporate more into my day-to-day interactions with people, especially because I'm on social media all day, streaming and running the business. Like I've got to be as calm as I can for as long as I can.
TSAN Discord. That's where it was. That's where I said it to you, and
that's right. Yes, that's it. It was.
The reason why I'm not ACAB is because exactly what Sierra said. Sierra said that, to fix the system, the people in the system have to help fix it. If I insult them, they won't hear me.
Yes.
Right? If I insult them, they won't hear me. And as a business consultant, when I go in and try to fix something that's wrong, one of the first things I do is I interview the frontline personnel because they give me insight. It's not always the same, and they're personal issues. But generally speaking, if you interview 5 people who are frontline personnel, there'll be 2 or 3 themes that all of them will be the same. That will be relevant to I don't like Sierra because she's this, or I don't like James because he's that. That'll exist, but that won't be a common. Yeah, but if all of them don't like Eric, Eric's the problem.
Oh,
sure. Right. No, that's right. Fair. Yeah.
Right. One doesn't like Sierra, one doesn't like James, but all of them don't like Eric. There's a problem.
No.
Right?
Sounds like TSAN. No, I'm kidding.
Invert that. TSAN doesn't like me.
So I have to be able to get the people to work. When I was talking about fixing the prison system in New York State, people were so angry that I was talking to corrections officers. I was literally visiting prisons and jails and talking to corrections officers. Why? I need them to fix the system. They're the ones who live with the prisoners every day. If they aren't part of it, it's not going to work. So I can't insult them. You help me fix this thing. I actually made an agreement with many of them. I said, look, if you vote for me and I do this, I will immediately, as governor, I will sign your contract immediately without the punishment clause. My governor had a punishment clause. He wanted to constantly punish corrections officers, right? So I said, I'll remove the corrections clause that you're fighting over, union's fighting over. You don't have to do it. I'll sign it with one thing. You guys agree publicly. You will help me fix this system. You do that, I'll sign it. Right. That was my agreement, right? I'm actually having a police officer who's also a union rep on my show, The Sharpe Way, this Thursday evening because of FAQS and QICC, and he wants to talk about it. And I'm like, yes, let's talk about it. Yes. Because I want to make sure that they're part of the solution. That's why I'm not ACAB. They're part of the solution.
That's a good point. I've made they're part of the problem argument a bunch, but you're right. They're part of the solution.
Or that rather they can be part of the solution.
They need to be.
There we go. They need
Without
to be.
them, how
Sierra.
can we do it?
Perfect, Sierra. Perfect.
I think, okay, so my issue lies more on systemic grounds, as a lot of this does. The thing is, ACAB makes a great hashtag. I like to tweak it a little bit and say
you've added a bunch of letters.
Oh, I made a pretty good one. It was like 98 letters, but it basically says most cops are bad most of the time, and that doesn't mean
said all cops are bad except when they aren't.
That is not what I said. But the point here is
you can use scab. Some cops are bad.
Some cops are bad a lot of the time, though. Because the problem is that not. Oh, it looks weird to you guys when I look like this, but I have them on my screen here, so just throwing it out there. But yes, some cops are bad. But here's the thing: the role of a police officer, and you mentioned this earlier, Larry. Maybe I took it the wrong way, and I can't even remember your exact words here, but I believe it was something along the lines of like they wouldn't have signed up to do that in the first place. So we have, even beyond the racial stuff, and we have like a half hour left, can't get into every law in the books, but like as long as there's people signing up to keep people from smoking weed and minding their own business, I can't co-sign that. I can't be like, yeah, like that cop's pretty good. Like they're all gonna do it. They're all gonna enforce seatbelt laws. Like we're not gonna agree on all laws. I get that. I'm just saying, as long as there's liberty being infringed upon, I can't say like, yeah, some cops are fine, because all cops sign the same contract.
They all arrest people for victimless crimes.
With that logic, and I'm okay with if you believe in this logic, but with that logic, then aren't all military personnel's accessories to murder?
With that logic, yes.
All of them.
I'm asking the question. I don't believe that at all, because my question goes back to intent. Right? I was a Marine, and I would have, now I would never do it, but when I was 18, 19 years old, I would have, without question, sacrificed my life and or ordered men to their deaths. At that point, there were no women. I'm not being sexist, but when in the 80s in the Marine Corps, there were no women in that world. So I would have ordered men to their death, or would have been ordered to my death voluntarily. I wouldn't have hesitated. I would have charged the machine gun pit because my sergeant told me to. I would have done so. Was it because I was someone who wanted to kill people or want to hurt people? No. I believed in my heart. I totally believed it. I believed that I was protecting your freedoms. That was absolutely not true. But I believed that in my heart 100%. If I'd have passed the lie detector test, because I believed it. 100%.
How long were you in, by the way?
That
7 years. So I have a brand.
Yeah, I see that.
Got it in the Philippines. So when cops join, I think the vast majority of cops join because they believe they're protecting their community. They believe they're going to be protecting and serving. They do. I think that's how they start. And those who go there saying, I'm going to, bust drug dealers, they believe that's bad. They believe in their hearts that drug dealers are hurting people, that drugs are dangerous. They believe they're supporting their community. I think the average cop actually believes all those things. I don't think the average cop thinks, oh, drugs aren't bad. I think the average cop believes they are bad. That's why they sign up for that job. I think most do that. I could be wrong. I have no data to back up what I said. This is only my opinion, and I could be totally wrong.
It's interesting you say that with the military example, because that's actually the point I usually make when I tell people I'm not ACAB. Between my socialist friends, my friends who are in the military, even some friends in law enforcement, I don't hate any of them. I do, like you said, I think in their heart of hearts, they think they're doing something good, and a lot of the times they are. Anybody, like, there's nobody that I know of, I don't think, gods, I hope this is the case, that goes out and they say, how can I ruin people's lives today? How can I hurt more people? So I get that. I get that, and I agree with it. But I'm not in I guess personally in a headspace where I could discount all the side effects. That being said, we're all human beings. Like, I can go out with the best of intentions, try to help an old lady across the street, and wind up killing a dog by accident. I won't get into too much detail there. But, stuff happens. Stuff we don't intend to happen happens. But we're human. As I think Larry has presented in his QICC and FAQS plans, like, we need to stop making these people out to be heroes and absolute villains. Like, we're all human.
Just people.
Yes. So
Cops are just people. They're just people.
I concur.
The problem is we either make them, they're all the saints and perfect, or they're all evil. Neither is true. They're people doing a job. in a crappy system that we should fix.
I think an amount of the backlash and the like, well, they're all evil is because we've chosen to hold them up on that pedestal for so long. And it's like, well, if you're going to say that they're saints and gods, then like, no, I don't like that. This guy's a monster. So let's like change the narrative. So I think it's very much a response to the way that we already idolize them.
Totally agree. I think you're right.
That goes back to the push-pull game. And Trump being divisive, like I'd say late 2015, everything started getting like real bad in terms of you like this, well I hate it now, and I'm gonna slap you for liking it. Like it's insanity, and
well, there's a double-edged sword to this. I'm sorry, another part to this. Which is there is an overload of information.
Oh yes.
There's so much information out there. There's so much to learn. How can you... I couldn't go to work. I could just spend every day on the internet getting more data and information. So what am I going to do? I'm so overwhelmed. I begin to believe people or put things into X and Y and black and white. And now it becomes easier. I'll just listen to what my guy or gal says on this TV station, on this podcast, on this radio show, or several of them. And, they say they're bad? Okay, then they're bad. People connected to them? Okay. I'll go back to military time. When I was 18, 19, I was the guy, it's going to sound so funny, I'm so not the person now, but I was the guy who wore the shirt, kill them all, let God sort them out. I was that guy. I was the guy who thought we got to kill the godless Russians in the USSR. This is the 80s. That's who my enemy was. My enemy was the Soviet Union, right? So, I was that kid who thought that. Why? Because my government told me they're bad. Therefore, they're bad. What? Why are you questioning it? Right? Why? President George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan said they were bad. Therefore, they're bad. That's the reason. I don't need to think about this. I mean, but the thing about that was life was a lot easier. It was cleaner. We were the good guys. They were the bad guys because the guys above told us that. We can dehumanize them, treat them badly, and kill them.
It's easier when you're a tool. I mean,
it is.
That's
100%.
So much easier. This way toward enemy and go.
100%. Way easier. So I get when you're overwhelmed, when you're bombarded with information and data, and something else we have. We're also overwhelmed by caring. What issue is the critical one today to care about? There are 15 different things I'm supposed to care about and give money to and yell about and be an activist about. I just can't. I just can't. At one point, can I just sit down and watch Netflix?
Nope.
And not have to worry about this issue that I've got to be yelling and screaming about or have an opinion on or have a side on. I can't. So what's his side? I'm on his side. What does she say? Okay, I'm against her. Whatever she says, I'm the opposite because I just can't handle it. Whatever he says, I'm on.
We're tired.
Yes, because I'm overwhelmed and my brain can't handle it. So you know what? Whatever the Democrats say, that's right. Whatever AOC says is correct. Whatever Bernie says is right. Or whatever Trump says is correct. This is easy. Did Fox News say it? Okay, yes. Did CNN say it? Okay, yes.
I used to be my dad.
Yes, that's a lot of Americans.
Larry's talking smack about my mom pretty heavily right now. Don't tell anybody.
That's a lot of Americans. Absolutely.
It is.
I love you,
and
Mom.
it's not.
I've said before, like, my dad is a libertarian. He doesn't know it. He has no idea that he's a libertarian. But he's a libertarian. Like, he talks about what policies he believes in and like why he votes Republican. And I'm like, Dad, you're a libertarian. And like last election cycle, I was like, Dad, vote for Gary Johnson. And he was like, who's that? And I was like, it just became a whole thing. And it's been like an uphill battle since then of me trying to be like, Dad, you're a libertarian. Watch my show. Listen to me talk to libertarians. You're a libertarian. You don't know, but you are. I think that's a huge issue. That's a lot of people don't realize, like, they just kind of, like you said, just pick a loud side. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it makes it easier. I can now just do my life. I can just do my job and spend time with my family. I don't have to be an activist. I can just, listen to...
I can tell you what my label is, and then...
Bingo!
Be done.
This is one of the reasons why you see a lot of politicians don't solve problems. Because the problem becomes the wedge issue, which puts you on my side regardless of what else I do, right? I'm not going to fix immigration. Why would I? If I'm a Republican or Democrat, if you're pro-wall, oh, you're one of mine if I'm a Republican. You're anti-wall, oh, you're one of mine if I'm a Democrat. Why would I actually fix it?
Mm-hmm.
It makes everything easier. I can be the worst politician in the world, a horrible human being, literally a pedophile. You've seen this happen before. Literally a pedophile, but doesn't matter. I want to build the wall. Oh, you're one of mine? Checkbox. Or I don't want to build the wall. You're one of mine? Checkbox. That's it. I'm pro-life. I'm not pro-life. I'm pro-life and pro-choice. Ah, you're one of mine? Checkbox. You're pro-life. Oh, you're one of mine? Pro-choice. Checkbox. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
You can be completely incompetent. Doesn't matter. You can be a bad person.
Obviously.
You can literally be someone who, yes, you can be a sexual predator. Doesn't matter. You check the right box. My life is easier. Yeah, like you said perfectly, Sierra. I know my label. You're my label. We're good.
Yep.
And that's a huge problem too. Like Hillary Clinton, great example of this. Like, I do believe firmly people can learn. People can change their minds. There's a few things Larry and y'all shared tonight I'm going to be thinking about. Might change my mind on a few things. Someone like Hillary Clinton, I saw, like, I think it was maybe a 10-minute video of her just going back and forth on her ideas over election cycles. Like, there's a huge difference between learning, changing your mind, and staying electable. So, like, you're checking one box one day and then another box the next day just to appease people. And a lot of people, it's sad, I don't even think they care anymore. They just want, like Larry was saying, those check boxes. Even if last week you checked the other one. It's scary stuff.
Right, they're like, I said I'm a Democrat, and right now this is what the Democrats believe in, so I guess it's what I believe in.
Yeah.
Like,
well, if you go
that.
back about 10 years, maybe 15 years or so, Democrats wanted to build a wall, and Republicans said it was too expensive.
Ooh.
Now it's the reverse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Warlords change. That's all that matters. Warlords change.
And like there's I'm sorry, go ahead, Slav.
What Democrats wanted a wall though? I don't remember that.
Yeah, go back to the Democratic Party was talking about slowing immigration down. This is I'm thinking this is it?
I remember Obama wanted to change immigration policies.
No, this wasn't Obama. This has got to be maybe 15 years now. It was prior. I think it was Democrats in the House under Bush.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes,
yeah,
after 9/11.
I didn't pay a lot of, well, obviously after 9/11, yeah. I can see where that's coming from.
Yeah,
but
Democrats wanted to build a wall after 9/11.
Second grade, I don't know.
Yeah,
I was a junior when it happened. Yeah,
Democrats wanted to build a wall after 9/11, and Republicans said it's too expensive.
That's when Democrats came out and were like, "Don't worry, we're kind of racist too, guys."
Yeah, we can all be racist.
Well, and I've had this conversation before with friends. It was. Some people might take offense to this, but it was cool to be racist after 9/11, or at least xenophobic, because we were attacked by one enemy of one color, but that did not represent the entirety of the color,
yes,
or the religion.
Xenophobic.
Xenophobic. Well, I mean, it's a mixture of both, because I mean, we saw. I mean, you lived in New York at the time, right?
Yes,
Larry?
I was here. I actually saw the second plane hit.
Yeah, oof. It was American flags everywhere, and I mean, if you ask anybody who was in the Muslim or Arab community back then, they felt targeted.
Because they were
100%. You could not be that color or brown walking around New York without fearing for your life.
Yep.
You just could not do it, and it was cool. It was fine then. It was all right.
It was state sponsored.
We're all white people, or we're all black people, but we're not brown at that time. So it was okay, totally okay. It was just like the Japanese concentration camps. It was the exact same mentality. It was cool to hate Japanese people back then. It was cool to hate Chinese people in the early mid 1900s. There's always this level of racism that's okay. It was always a trendy thing because that one color attacked us.
It's funny. I should tease my friends. We'd have a holiday party every year, and every year I go to their house and go, "Hey guys, how you doing? Who do we hate this year?"
Oh, God.
I'm behind. I missed it. Who do we hate this year? Oh, it's them? Okay, we hate them. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's it. So make sure I'm hating the right people this year. That's all. I don't want to be out of fashion for who I hate. You know?
Oh, God. That is a true and sad and pathetic pattern. Okay, we are almost out of time. I want to get to really quickly protesting, rioting, and looting. A lot of people seem to have mixed feelings on these. I don't think anyone disagrees with protests. There's even people who I've talked to who weren't like that outraged about George Floyd and were still sort of okay with protesting. The main points of contention seem to be the rioting and the looting. Does anyone want to share anything?
I don't agree with the rioting and looting either, but like I mean, we got the first day that I was there, the tear gas started at 11 o'clock in the morning, the first day, and they did it all day. There was no rioting or looting in Columbus that evening. Mm-hmm. But if there would have been, I don't think I could have blamed anybody because it was tear gas and rubber bullets from 11 a.m. till 11 p.m.
I'm just going to drop that one quote that everybody says: rioting is the language of the unheard. And it's come that far, this long. It's been 150 years or longer that Black voices have not been heard. I mean, there are still people alive today that remember segregation in the 50s, that remember seeing integration start and seeing the riots then of white people being mad because now Black kids were coming into their school. I think rioting has its place. This country started on rioting. And granted, don't get me wrong, Boston Tea Party, it's pivotal in history, but they also did a lot of wrong things there, like dressing up as Native Americans and trying to get it to be blamed on them. But this country was built on
that's what's happening
violent
now,
protest.
Though.
No, it is. It's exactly what's happening right now.
Like you see white supremacists coming in and like riling people up and then being like, look, it's the Black community doing it. But or like I saw a video of a little white girl.
It's not just the protests that are making change happen. It's literally cities burning to the ground. It's literally cities being set on fire that's making everybody go, oh shit, they're serious this time. Because this generation, not just my generation, not just your generation, Sierra, not just anybody who's way younger than me's generation, we've all seen this in the past 25 years or so, and it's come to this boiling point where we're fucking sick of it.
I just keep thinking back to this video of this little white girl spray painting BLM on the side of a Starbucks, and this Black woman is like, stop, what are you doing? Quit, I didn't ask you to do that. None of us asked you to do that. They're gonna blame this on us, not on you, on us.
Yeah.
And so like that's the part of the Boston Tea Party that it's like, that's what's happening right now. There's people that are acting on behalf of the Black community, and then it gets the media doesn't show a little white girl spray painting a Starbucks. They're like, look at this graffiti, who did it? The Black community. And it's like, no, they didn't.
But there's also legitimate rioting happening against police brutality. I mean, look at Minneapolis. I mean, they literally barricaded their entire police precinct because they were heard. You know, it's sometimes you have to be extreme in order to get your voice out there. And I'm not saying extremist like we were just talking about 9/11, but I'm just saying sometimes just silently and peacefully protesting doesn't work. It does not make change happen. Sometimes you've got to get loud, you've got to get rowdy.
Stonewall was a riot.
So Big Blue posits that the rioting sets the protests back. I don't
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so at all.
Larry, you've been kind of quiet. What are your feelings here?
All of this stuff is useless if you don't have an answer.
Yep.
And all of it useless. It means nothing. So why you don't see me protest? It's useless. It means nothing unless you have an answer. If you don't come up with a quick or a facts, you're wasting your time. And the best example I will give you is Occupy Wall Street. Colossal waste of time. Colossal waste of time. Did nothing.
100%.
Huge protest. The protests against the war. Remember, against the war in Iraq? Millions of people across the world protested. Useless. Because you had no answer. There was no answer. All that happens is government goes, these people will shut up eventually. Then they'll crack down even further or do some we'll punish this guy. See, we gave you a head. There we go. We'll put his head on the pike. See, you happy now? Back to old ways. It's useless if you don't have an answer. If we don't actually
still got
get
results
change,
coming from it this year, though.
Yeah, and we might. I'm not saying this isn't over yet. You're totally right, James. It's not over yet. So I don't know if it's useless. Yeah, I immediately came up with answers because I didn't want this to be Occupy Wall Street. Yeah. I knew Occupy Wall Street was a waste of time and energy. Off the bat, I'm like, these guys have no idea what they want. They don't know what they're going to do. Eventually, they'll just walk away, which is what happened, and it did nothing. The reason why we have this crash now is because Occupy Wall Street failed. That's the reason why we had the crash. There was no actual change of 2008, 2009 because Occupy Wall Street did nothing.
Yep.
If we don't have actual change, I was hoping qualified immunity would be one of them, but there may be others. These other ideas are still out there. People are talking about them. If there's change, totally worth it. The riots, I agree with both of these guys. The riots didn't mean anything. Yes or no. I mean, I don't want people to riot and destroy things. I don't want it. But I get it when it happens. I do. I get it. I don't think it'll stop change. I think change will happen because we have some plans and people behind them. I actually feel better about this than ever because of two things. One, the mix of people who are in the rioting and the protesting and the mix of people who are there. That's number one. And number two, the amount of people who 2 years ago or a year ago didn't believe this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who have changed their mind.
Oh, yeah.
Me.
Yes, a lot.
Literally.
Have changed their mind. But that was not the case with Occupy Wall Street.
No.
Occupy Wall Street was the usual suspects.
Yeah, 100%.
This one is not.
No, the 2020 is just so much has happened this year. But I mean,
I think as rough as it's been. Sorry, go ahead.
There was a video I saw from an NAACP leader. I was a lawyer for NAACP, and he's an older black gentleman, and he was explaining why the statues should come down and for the Southern heritage and all that fun stuff. But at the end, he goes, you know, I was alive in the 50s and the 60s, and I have never seen this level of activism. I've never seen this level of response to a problem. And he was there for segregation and integration. He was there for LGBTQ getting their rights. He's seen the worst riots and protests in our history, and he's saying we're loud, we're finally being heard. He's never seen this in his entire life. And I watched the whole video, but at the end, when he said that, I literally got choked up because it made me feel validated that we are doing something right, whether it's rioting, whether it's protesting, whether it's just making Facebook posts, we are doing something. And if that one man can recognize that, how many others are, you know, and we're seeing change happen because of these actions. We're seeing it. And I'm so proud to be here in this moment right now, talking about it with you guys and being a part of those movements and seeing where this is going to go in the next year. I mean, because it's going to be within a year that these things are going to happen. Everything's going to happen fast.
Yeah,
or
I saw
it's going to hit a brick wall and not happen at all.
Right. I saw a thing that said all 50 states protesting, rioting, whatever, participating in this. All 50 states participating, and 18 countries who this doesn't affect, who have nothing to do with this.
Exactly.
Like, their police system is their police system. They're not protesting for their police system. They're protesting for us in 18 other countries on top of all 50 states. And I think it was something that, I mean, Eric and I had talked about because I think we both saw the post and then it said that like that makes this the largest civil rights movement in history or something. I believe is the verbiage that was used. Like this is huge.
This is the biggest movement in the history, at least in the eyes of people who are still alive today, I would say. I mean, this isn't the biggest movement that's been in the history of the U.S. or, I mean, obviously we got away from England, but this is a massive, massive shift. In 2020, while it's a big pile of crap, this is the shining gem at the top of it. That's a beacon of light for us to move forward. And like I said, it's going to be just either it's fast, it's going to happen, or brick wall in a couple of months.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for that. We got 10 minutes left, so I think we do need to do closings just in case. Unless, is there anything we've covered tonight where you guys feel like you want to tie up a loose end on? You want to make a statement?
This has been one of the best panels I've been on yet.
Much
I
appreciated.
really enjoyed this.
Awesome.
Oh, good. I like it. I'm glad you invited me. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to meet you. Oh, it's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm still wrapping my brain around it. Is the Larry Sharpe actually?
I made it.
He did it. He did it. We got him for a whole half hour, guys. It's the best. So I guess let's do closings. I didn't really do an intro. Well, whatever. We'll just skip me for
my closing is watch my Sharpe Way show.
That's
Sharpe Way Twitter, Sharpe Way Facebook, Sharpe Way YouTube, Sharpe Way Instagram, Sharpe Way everything. Go watch it. Every Monday, I do 2 hours, Ask Me Anything AMA, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
We were going to get to you, Larry. I'm glad you saw this much stuff.
You gave me the opportunity to pitch, so I pitched.
That's fair. Yes, do everything that man just said. I was going to save this bit for after I talked about myself a bit, but I can't, I didn't want to say this at the beginning of the panel because I really want everyone here to, weigh everyone's words equally. We're all citizens of the U.S. We all have our own perspectives and stuff. It's important we get points across. But Larry's the goddamn man, okay? I'm just saying.
Thank you, brother.
I agree.
The man is the truth. You are welcome.
You got a new fan today, bud.
All right, I'm winning.
I'm very happy to hear that. It's the truth. Very strong principles, but very practical solutions, and that's what we need. Forget all the stigmas about libertarian ideologies. Larry is here to give you solutions. I'm not even going to say shove libertarianism down your throat, because when you're listening to the man talk on his show, that's certainly not what I get out of it. He's coming up with viable solutions to very complex issues, as you saw here today with Quick and FAQS. So I'm very grateful to have been able to widen his platform a bit, maybe reach to whatever amount I could at this juncture, and to have gotten a pretty big lesson in the process.
Same.
It felt like a panel mixed with school. I loved it. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like you said, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere that you frequent, make sure to follow, subscribe, do what you can for the man, and check him out on his own show, The Sharpe Way. As for me, as part of the closing, we had biggest hopes moving forward and where people could find you. So we addressed Larry's where we could find him. Larry, I would like to hear your biggest hope moving forward.
My biggest hope. My biggest hope is that this year we have at least 2 or 3, and this is totally party out. I'm a party guy, I'm a politician, I care about the Libertarian Party. I hope that we have at least 2 statewide elections that are decided by a Libertarian percentage. Meaning that it's 2, like the governor of Kentucky was decided by Libertarians. That happened a year. The governor won by 5,000 votes. 25,000 people voted Libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
I want at least 2 statewide elections this year to be decided by the Libertarian Party. That if those Libertarian votes had gone either way, that decided the election. I want at least 2 statewide in this country this year to happen. That's my hope.
I dig it.
Because that means we're valid. That means we're real. You got to pay attention to us.
Yeah.
We affect elections. If we affect elections, you got to pay attention.
Yeah.
And I don't need Libertarian Party to be 51% of anything. I need it to be 2 things. 1, just enough to affect an election, because then when we win the House or we win House seats, whatever the case may be, we become the swing vote and we can control the House with 5 or 10%. But second, it'll force the other parties to be more libertarian. And if I can have better Democrats and better Republicans and a Libertarian Party, life is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I would agree.
That's a very good choice. Force them.
That's my hope.
I love it. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Larry. Slevin, what do you hope to see in the future come of all this? And tell us more about yourself and where we could find you.
I hope to live to see the end of Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. I hope that someday that we don't ever have to worry about discussing it anymore. I hope that police brutality, it doesn't have to be the headline every week. I hope that we don't have to lose any more black brothers and sisters at a knee or to lynching or in any other just violent way. I don't want to hear about justice being carried out in the moments. I want everybody to have a fair and equal trial as we're guaranteed by our Constitution. That being said, yeah. Hi, I'm Slevin. You guys can catch me at twitch.tv/SlevinKalevera. Everything, all of my socials are SlevinKalevera. variety streamer, personality streamer. I'll actually be probably streaming later tonight after this. Shameless plug. But
Plug away, man.
I'm super happy to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. And we'll hopefully we'll be back on another Soulspeak soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Sierra, you next. What do you hope for the future as far as this goes, and where can we find you? What do you do?
My hopes for the future is that an actual viable plan is, I mean, like, I like Quick and I like FAQS, and so either that in itself or something like that actually comes to fruition. My hopes is that we can actually make a change within our police force and within our whole government system. I want to see real change actually happen. I don't want to see, well, we'll fire the bad cops and be done with it. I want reform. I want a whole reform. That's what I want to see out of this, is an actual change at the core of what the police system is. However, that may have to come about.
Breonna Taylor's murderers are still walking free.
Yeah, true. True. And as for me, I'm Sierra Grove. I think most of you, if not all of you, know me by now. I play games while I advocate for mental health, and sometimes we do charity events on Twitch. I'm also on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, just not nearly as much as I am on Twitch. I also have my own talk show called Grovelore that you can watch me on Fridays, or you can catch that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And my next episode is this Friday on the 3rd, and I will actually be speaking with Larry Sharpe.
I'll be there.
Diving in a little bit more. It'll just be a one-on-one of he and I. So we'll be diving into a little bit deeper to some of the things we talked about here, and then getting to know Larry a little bit more as well.
Yes.
Amazing.
10 out of 10 recommend that. 2 of my very much favorite people around these parts collabing. Guys, go check out the link dropped in the chat. All the links, for that matter. I can't thank you guys enough. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. You're very welcome, Slebs. I cannot ask for a better return episode of Soulspeak. I hope you guys keep doing the great work that you do on the platforms that you have, and hopefully we can do this again soon sometime. Without further ado, I'll let you guys go, and I'll rat you guys free to do whatever you'd like. I'll hang up the call now and address the community. Thank you again.